Wednesday of championship week in the NFL, and as you can tell, we are very, very excited.
Yes,
I was even talking to my pedicures yesterday, and she was like, I can't wait for championship football this Sunday afternoon. And she told me I had some bunions she had to take care of. In any event, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Carton Show. That handsome guy right there is Mr. David Jacoby. Over here, he's not clapped yet or he said anything.
No nipples today.
Mr. Shot Jock himself, Greg Jennings, Super Bowl champion, Green Bay Packer, Hall of Famer, and this handsome guy right here, of course, Super Bowl champion, Mr. Willie Colon. Hey, no better time than the present. Let's get into it. Wednesday morning. Headlines! The battle we all wanted. The great Patrick Mahomes, greatest quarterback of his generation, against what's going to be the two-time MVP of the league, Mr. Lamar Jackson, facing off. And the spreads pretty much stayed the same, 3.5. I know some places having it 4. But you're talking about one guy carrying a franchise and another guy managing a much better team as we get ready now for the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, we know who Patrick Mahomes is, obviously with the Super Bowls and MVPs, but right now this is up to Lamar Jackson to do it in spots that Patrick Mahomes has already done with his decision-making, his ability to lead. You talk about what I was most impressed in the second half of the Texans game, coming out with 3 touchdowns, firing the boys up in the locker room and saying, I have arrived. Now he has to do it in a big game at home.
Greg, any truth to the statement I'm going to make right now, which is the week to beat the Ravens was last week, coming off the 3-week hiatus?
Yeah, there's some truth to that because you obviously understand that offensively you're going to come out a little slow, a little rusty. There's the opportunity and the possibility of that happening. It did against the Texans. If you were the Chiefs and you found your way rolling with the Dolphins game going into the division round, and you had the Ravens in that spot, you probably get them because you jump out on top of them. But for the Ravens, like you just mentioned, the second half is where they woke up and Lamar got that offense going along with that defense who had it going all game.
I mean, to be fair, the second half of that game last week was the best half of football we've seen for any of the teams that are playing still. No disrespect to the Lions and what they did, or even San Francisco in that last drive. The Ravens played the most complete football in that second half in their win this past weekend. All right, headline number 2, AFC to NFC, Niners and Lions. It's really interesting to me that the conversation about this game has been single-minded about one guy, and that's Brock Purdy. Whether that's fair or not, we'll get into it, obviously, throughout the show. But to me, this game is a lot more than just can Brock Purdy show up in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, for me, I think it starts with how he was drafted, right? Being Mr. Irrelevant, I mean, you got to understand Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, and Bailey Zappi was drafted over this man. Now he's going to his second NFC Championship in his second year, and now you're talking about not only dumping money on him, but he has a respect in the locker room. That doesn't happen for a guy like Mr. Irrelevant, so that's why he's kind of dominating the headlines.
Yeah, it's more than just him, though.
It is, and I look at this defense. They have to be better. Like, they were better late in that game against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, but you got to be able to apply pressure on the offense and a quarterback like Jared Goff, who you know is not going to extend plays and get outside the pocket, but he is going to be well protected up front. You got to find a way to break through and get
So
pressure.
Can we break this down, Jacoby? Is it just the battle of quarterbacks? The number 1 overall pick in his draft, the last guy picked in his draft, and nobody else matters?
Yes, it is exactly.
Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, that's what you wanted to hear. Yeah, that's it. It boils down to that.
There are 104 other guys that are totally irrelevant that are going to be on the sidelines of these games. It's Brock Purdy, who frankly is taking a lot of bullets for no reason whatsoever.
Oh, there's reason now.
There's no reason whatsoever. We'll get into that in just a minute because we are sitting with a shot here on the dais today. And for the first time in my life, it ain't me.
Right.
It's the guy wearing green. We'll get into it. We'll give Greg an opportunity to defend his nonsense. Coming up in just a second. Your third headline, Jacoby's been all over it. Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers apparently have the money worked out. Now it's little details that, like, who's going to be the GM, who's going to be on the staff,
I want my khakis
who stays
pressed every day,
and who goes. But it does look like right now Jim Harbaugh is about to be the new head coach of the LA Chargers.
I find this interesting because if you ask me what's the problem with the Chargers, one word comes to mind, and it would be the same word for all of us: defense.
Defense.
And you think about Jim Harbaugh, you don't think defense. You think sort of like leadership, recruiting, because that's one thing he did really well in Michigan, and quarterback play. And obviously Herbert could be improved, but he's kind of fine. they're kind of good in that spot.
Yeah, I guess the issue is when you go back to the only playoff game the Chargers played in and that embarrassing second half against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the one thing Justin Herbert hasn't done yet is lead a team to victory, outplay the other quarterback in a playoff game, and be the reason why the Chargers win. We all agree defense has been suspect. I gave up so many fourth quarter leads, I lost count of it. But the flip side of that conversation, which is a fair one to have, is the great quarterbacks find a way to win playoff games. He hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
No, he hasn't done that, but I don't mind Jim Harbaugh because when you look at Justin Herbert, what he's had is defensive head coaches. Like when you look at this Chargers team the past few years, what they've had is defensive-minded coaches at the helm, and it hasn't worked out. So you got to switch things up. And for me, the way you watch Jim Harbaugh, even with Michigan, even when he was in the NFL prior to that with the 49ers, he has a reputation of creating a great team of guys, both offensively and defensively, so I think it'll work out.
All right, we got lots to do today. It's going to be a fun show for you. We got one big NBA thing coming your way, a shocker. A shocker, they say, in NBA circles. A shocker. Plus, we're going to find out if we agree that Mahomes and that guy right there, Lamar Jackson, are the two best quarterbacks in all football. It's an interesting debate as to who's number 3. We'll get into it. It's not Justin Fields, I can tell you that. Right after this. All right, welcome back to the Carton Show. One NBA thing. The Milwaukee Bucks are second only to the Boston Celtics in the East record-wise, but they fired their first-year head coach, Adrian Griffin. They're 30-13. How do you get fired when you have the second-best record and you're 30-13? Oh, that's right, because the Greek Freak is a coach killer now, and Damian Lillard didn't like the way you set him up on offense. Now, to be fair, they do give up 120 points a game, which is not good. You're not going to win an NBA championship giving up $120. But here's the side story to this that's got a lot of tongues wagging. The advisor to Griffin in his first year in Milwaukee is a guy by the name of Glenn Rivers. In Philly, they call him Glenn. The rest of us call him Doc. And the thought process now is that while advising and being a consultant to Milwaukee and Griffin, it's Doc Rivers who is now going to replace him. We call that snake in the grass.
I was going to say, sounds like a little backstabbing going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what we call it, Greg Jennings, don't we?
Yeah. David Jacoby, do you know anything about this?
Well, I'll tell you what happened is his tenure started. They had another advisor before Doc, and that was Terry Stotts, the former coach of Dame Lillard in Portland for a long time. You get a rookie head coach and you get a veteran advisor. Guess what? They had an argument. Terry Stotts was out like day one. And then he said, you know what, guys? I know we had a great defense last year. We're going to completely revamp our defense. I have a new philosophy. That didn't work. He changed that in like a week. And then when you're the second best record in the NBA, they're the second best record in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's coach of the year stuff. That's not you got to go stuff, which tells me there's a lot more going on behind the scenes.
NBA's messy
Than we know about.
Yeah, well, obviously, as the story comes out, when Doc does officially get the job, we can discuss it more. But it's crazy to have the second best record.
He's got it.
And all of a sudden, you're like, we have a coaching problem. Like, what are we talking about? Anyhow, that's your one NBA thing. Back to the NFL. And this was really on the heels of a silly comment that Greg Jennings made yesterday. To be fair, I mean, that's the genesis of this, when Greg came out and said that he would take Justin Fields over Brock Purdy.
So Daniel Jones.
Frankly, just a comical thing to say. But we'll get into that later on. We accept the fact that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football.
Sure.
No one's arguing that. We accept the fact right now that Lamar Jackson's going to win his second MVP. No one argues that.
Right.
So if we take those two guys and we put them on the side for a moment as the 1 and 1A best quarterbacks in the moment in the NFL, it's an interesting question. Who would you take third? Do you take a Josh Allen third? Do you take a Justin Herbert, never won a playoff game? What do you feel about Tua?
Dak.
And then, of course, we get to Dak Prescott, the great regular season for Dallas. You got Jared Goff, led the Lions to, obviously, division title, an NFC championship game. And then, of course, you have the guy that I'm going to support, Brock Purdy, who in his 2 years has only gone to back-to-back NFC championship games. So this all kind of germinates from your original comment yesterday, so I have to put you on the spot. If we put Mahomes and Lamar aside, right now, today, not career, today.
Right now.
Who is the third best quarterback in the NFL? I'm sorry?
C.J. Stroud. Like it's not even a question. Like you're not going to convince me that you would take Brock Purdy over C.J. Stroud. If you're talking just stats, that's great. But when you talk about a guy who's done something very similar to what Joe Burrow has done in Cincinnati, and I'm not saying Joe Burrow because he is injured.
Fair enough, because he'd be a pretty good answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what Joe Burrow did, he went to a situation that was dead to rights.
Yep.
And he revitalized that entire organization by going through the guy that's going to be playing this weekend in Patrick Mahomes, who we deem the best quarterback in all of football. When you look at C.J. Stroud, he is on that trajectory. He has revitalized the organization along with DeMeco Ryans and what he's been doing, been able to do at the head coach position. But he has given this team life, this organization life, something to cheer about with this fan base. And so when I look at that, what other quarterback has done that? Like my argument with Brock Purdy, and don't misconstrue my words. Don't say I picked Justin Herbert over. I said he's a playmaker, and I would take him. However, you look at Brock Purdy, and he came into a situation that was kind of ready-made. All they needed was a steady Eddie quarterback that can sustain what they were already accomplishing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Sure. We've seen this with Jimmy Garoppolo. The one thing that we hadn't seen Jimmy Garoppolo do is finish the job. We haven't yet seen if Brock Purdy can finish the job. He finishes the job, congratulations. I say he's a good quarterback.
Yes.
I say the ceiling for Brock Purdy is he is a good quarterback. The floor is, can he do this outside of the situation that he's currently in?
So, all right, so there's a lot to unpack there. On the C.J. Stroud thing, I would just ask, who's he playing this week?
Nobody.
No, right. And how many touchdowns did he throw in the playoff game last week?
Wait.
Zero. I'm just asking the question. The offense scored 0 points in that game.
Well, if Brock Purdy and the 49ers were in the AFC and they had to play the Ravens, would they be playing this weekend?
Well, they got blown out by the Ravens about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
I know it's not possible, but we've seen that.
It's not possible. Although people have transitioned more and more these days. Yeah. Look, all right, so he took C.J. Stroud. Yep. And look, it's a silly argument because there's no right or wrong. Right. It's just an argument.
Have the conversation.
I'm arguing,
but it's
an interesting subjective conversation because C.J. Stroud's had 1 year in the NFL and a great year, but 1 year. Who would you pick there?
No, I don't have Flacco up here. I don't have Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph up here either. But I do have Dak Prescott. Dak, to me, is the third best quarterback in the NFL. Leading the league in touchdown passes, 4,000 yards on the season. I think arguably the best thing that happened to Dak Prescott was losing that game to San Francisco in an embarrassing fashion. They come back and jump-started that offense. And mind you, multiple coordinators, 3 12-5 win seasons. Yeah. I think the biggest problem with Dak Prescott is the defense has let him down to all.
Is that right? That the biggest problem with Dak Prescott is not the playoff interceptions, it's the defensive failures.
Totally defense.
Josh Allen accounted for 50 touchdowns.
I got drafted, right? And it's funny how this falls out there. I don't have to call it, right? Right? You talking about his interceptions were 15 last year? Well, he dropped it down to 11 for the good people outside. So for me, it's Dak Prescott, his leadership, his stability, his ability right now with this Dallas Cowboys franchise. Yeah. You have a shot to contend for a playoff.
So I guess let me rephrase the question. Jacoby will get you in here as well. I'm going to rephrase it. As opposed to me saying to you, all right, who's the third best quarterback?
I mean, you asked me the question. I'm allowed to have my guy.
The point is, I don't like your answer. I don't like your answer. Obviously, I'm searching, I'm fishing for a certain answer, and I haven't gotten it yet.
Well, give it to us, Chris.
Well, Jacoby gets to go.
Get to talk.
All right, but
here's talking about Adrian Griffin.
I want to rephrase the question for you, Jacoby. Okay. Again, put Lamar aside, put Mahomes aside. If those two guys can't be used, and you need a guy to win one game, a guy to lead you on one drive to win a game. Who's your guy?
Two different questions.
See how the field goal
post just don't say that. The reason we're posing this is because there's 5 or 6 names that could possibly be there. Right?
Agreed.
And it's a debate show, so I'm not going to tell you why you guys are wrong. But I'll also say this is Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers hurt.
Yes,
so there's no magical world in which they're healthy. Yep. So I'm saying Josh Allen. Okay. Because the knock on him is always like, the turnovers. He does that. but he does a lot of good things too. The deep ball throws, and the management of the offense, the short stuff to the side, and also what he can do with his legs. It's different than Lamar Jackson, but it's just as effective. Yeah. And I would say that if I needed one game Right now. Not
Right
later,
now.
Right now. My personal choice would be Josh Allen because of what I just saw 48 hours
Yeah,
ago.
he lost you the game.
This is not about right or
Josh
wrong.
Allen.
This is
That was not Josh Allen.
everyone's entitled to. It's a subjective opinion, so I'm not looking to argue this. However, I'm going to go last.
Oh, okay.
And,
Go figure.
the reason I brought up that extra little caveat, because that's what you want out of a franchise quarterback, a great quarterback. That's what you get out of Lamar Jackson. That's what obviously you get more than anyone out of Patrick Mahomes. I also got that out of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy did not play a good game, but now with the season on the line and having to go whatever it was, 70, 80 yards to win a playoff game and advance to a championship game, Brock Purdy had a very short memory, threw all the garbage out the window, and led San Francisco on a huge drive to win the game on the McCaffrey touchdown late. So to me, there's one guy left that I can trust in a big spot in a playoff game to lead a team to a touchdown while trailing. It's not Dak Prescott. That's been proven time and time again.
Not Josh Allen.
I'm getting around the
Okay,
table.
I'm sorry.
What I'm doing.
Jacoby's face
By the way,
made me say it.
it might be C.J. Stroud at some point in his career. Great rookie season, but not just yet. And obviously, Josh Allen had a chance to do it and missed, Diggs wide open and underthrew Sri Lanka in the end zone. One guy was able to lead his team from behind with a couple minutes to go and win a playoff game. It wasn't Jordan Love. He threw the interception.
Yeah.
It was one guy, and that guy is Brock Joe Montana Purdy.
I forget who said it this year, but this is what Brock Purdy did. He's like, I am the arsonist to get credit for putting out the fire. It's like he put himself in that position. He played poorly all game.
I said it yesterday.
All game long. He played terribly, and now he gets credit for getting himself out of the hole that he made.
He better have been the player that stepped up.
And he was.
He was. I
So he
give
gets
him credit for
credit
that. No question.
Yeah.
Let's go inside the locker room and just go into the unit room and now watch the tape.
Yeah.
What is happening in that meeting room is, the conversations are kind of like this. We were fortunate, guys.
Yep.
We were fortunate because if this mistake, they capitalize on this mistake. If they make this field goal, if they,
Yeah.
all those things. And we can say if Brock Purdy played a little bit better throughout the course of the game.
If Jennings doesn't run the wrong route.
Correct.
If Debo
All
doesn't get
we
hurt.
can say all those things.
Yeah.
But however, for me, when I look at what Brock Purdy did, was it great? Yes. In the moment where they needed him, to your point, to be better than what he was, he was exactly that.
And I think we should embrace that. That's all I'm saying.
I embrace that.
That's
if
it.
that's what you want me
So
I
we're embracing it.
Why?
We're embracing.
What
But
are you embracing?
I'm not at all willing to say he's the third best quarterback. I do not embrace that.
And you're
I will take Josh Allen.
I lean
slide
more
over
towards
here.
Josh Allen than I do C.J. Stroud. But for me, Brock Purdy's the guy. You want to embrace?
No.
We don't have to.
No.
All right, listen, we got much more coming your way. You can have this debate when you go to work. It's called the Carton Show game you play at work. It's like a board game like Monopoly.
We got to rebrand that.
I need a better name. That didn't come out right. It's the home edition of the Carton Show.
Argument?
The Carton.
That's what it's called. It's early. I only had 1 5-hour energy. We got more First and Football coming up, and we found a very interesting video of one guy on the desk right now. Coming up after this. Hey, by the way, every now and then, as you know, we scour the internet for content that we think you guys will find interesting, compelling, and entertaining. And we found some content yesterday. It's another cry for help video featuring one member of our staff here. This week, it's Greg Jennings. Listen to the video that we saw and found yesterday on the internet. Play it there, guys. Go ahead. Hey, if you hear me say something stupid like, I don't know, Justin Fields is better than Brock Purdy, it's because I'm jealous of James Jones' success and I want more attention. Sorry. So I don't know what you do in these videos, Greg, but I thought James Jones was a good friend and like godfather to one of your kids. No.
He definitely is. James, you're my guy.
Yeah, well, until he moved out to California and said, "I'll take that job on Speak. You can't have it." But that's inside information.
Do we ever throw rocks at Greg for him giving us a sexy face with the squinted eyes and kind of the low light?
I like.
What?
What do you point out all these things that are like, what?
When you give a sports team, you got to be bombastic. You're like, hey, I'm Greg Jennings.
Here's the deal. What he's saying, what we all want to hear you say on the show, just one time, is you give us that like Billy D face and just say Wakanda forever, and we'll be done with it. Just do that, and then we can stop bringing it up.
Got it.
No, not now. Maybe
Always swap.
All right.
Always swap.
Later in the show. That's a tease.
First in football. Go right ahead, Jacoby.
We start first in football in Detroit with Dan Campbell, who said the following when asked about being America's team, quote, "It's not over. If other people are enjoying watching us play, of course, we're all over that. You're welcome. As long as you weren't bashing us early." Now Dan Campbell's taking out the receipts and saying, don't join the bandwagon if you're critical of us when we were losing games. How do you feel about that, Mr. Carton?
I mean, this is when you get yourself in a little bit of trouble, right? When all of a sudden you start chirping after you've won. The reality is that you took a job that was the laughingstock of the NFL, among a couple other franchises as well. And to your credit, you turned it around. But man, you've been so consistent, with the messaging and who you are and the attitude and personality of the team. Now's not the time to clap back at people that were critical of the Detroit Lions or questioned if you were the right guy for the job or if Jared Goff could lead a team, back to a Super Bowl. Those are all very fair talking points because, as we just celebrated, you hadn't won a division in over 30 years. Like, what should we do? Just give you a trophy for getting the job? So I think that takes away a little bit, or can take away a little bit from all the positivity that he has earned and that the franchise has earned. And guys like Gibbs and Goff and Hutchinson and Aaron Glenn and all these great stories. Don't be that guy now. There's plenty of time to be that guy when you've got the Lombardi Trophy, raised above your head and tears are coming down your face and confetti sticking to your cheeks because you did the impossible. Now's not the time to do it. Because here's what happens. If you start chirping about the haters now, a guy like me might come on TV and say, can you explain to me why it is that your rough and tumble defense has given up over 300 yards passing in 5 consecutive games, and 2 of those games were against Nick Mullins and the Minnesota Vikings. We can start playing that game, and that's a game you're not going to win.
Yeah, and you got to understand, I get where Dan Campbell is coming from, but what he has to understand is we've gone through, as a Michigander, as a Lions
Michigander!
Growing up and watching this team struggle and not have success. Even last year, they started the season 1-6.
Yeah.
He was concerned about his own job.
That's right.
Publicly. I don't even know if I'm going to have a job after this. And then they turned it on. They've become the sweetheart, the darling. Everyone loves this team based on what they've been able to overcome. It's not like people are just bashing the Detroit Lions because we just hate this franchise. We just have grown to understand they might mess it up.
The Detroit Lions right now have been embraced by America.
Yes.
Because they represent America. Blue-collar town, against all odds, no one giving you a shot. The blue-collar work ethic, all those things that comes along with the city of Detroit, with Dan Campbell, and you should embrace that. You don't want to be the other guy that starts chirping right now, because when you look at the other teams that are in there, obviously Baltimore, has inner city problems, well documented, of course, and it's not like New York City or, wine country, Sonoma County, San Francisco. Just be who you are and play to it because it works. I tell you right now that if you took a poll of Americans that have an interest in the NFL, outside of Niner fans and Lions fans, 95% of the country wants Detroit to beat San Francisco. And I don't think it's even close.
I agree with that,
If you remember how loud that game was?
Yes.
Remember how loud it was? It was noticeably loud on your television. And if every one of those people that bashed the Lions at some point in the last 3 years was not in that stadium, it would be silent. Because the bashing comes from inside. Half the people wearing blue in that stadium were bashing you because you were 3-13-1 and then 1-6. You were awful. You were bashable. Now you're good. This is how it works.
Yeah, me and Greg played in Detroit where the fans were wearing brown bags.
I was thinking that.
I remember walking the sideline as a Steeler and be like, that's not good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, clearly. And overall, but you got to give him
I
credit.
dated her once. Oh, never mind.
Dated's not the word.
But no, since 2022, this is what he should get credit. And then we're going to have a graphic to show it, man.
Oh, look.
He's turned this thing around in a big way. You talk about wins versus losses, point differential. And what I love more about what Dan Campbell did in his 3 years, man, he didn't just go get a quarterback. He just didn't go get a Moss A. Brown. He understood the journeyman that he had. He had a center in a Frank Ragnow. He had Tyler Decker. He said, listen, for us to get to the show and the Super Bowl, we got to build around those guys. So he went and got Peter Sewell. He went and got a running back with Jamar Gibbs, right? So he needs to be, I guess, decorated or given his flowers because he built from the inside out.
The front office did a good job.
And
I would just add this last thing. I don't think there is a fan and or a former player or current player that wouldn't be running at the chance to play for that coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Oh, yeah.
everybody loves Dan Campbell and what he stands for. So come on, Dan, man, we're back.
By the way, and it's a teeny little slip up, but just stay on point.
Well, a lot of it has to
it's
be,
all good.
Well, a lot of it has to be frustration too, Craig, right? Because like you just said, this guy, week after week, was being questioned if he's the guy for the job. Is he a meathead, right? When he played in the league,
right.
he was a journeyman tight end. He wasn't a guy that was as decorated or was
He
highly.
was not.
He was just he was a meat and potatoes type guy. So when he got the job, a lot of people said, Dan Campbell?
Right. Who?
Really? Like, what?
Yeah.
But people forget the hell of a job he did in Miami.
I will say this, that stat I gave is a legitimate stat where that pass defense has been brutal. Giving up over 300 yards in 5 straight games. Nick Mullins is the worst quarterback I've ever seen in the league. So that's not good. And then when you combine that with the reality, say what you want about Brock Purdy, but with all the weapons San Francisco has, they will throw the ball all over the field against that defense. If that's the defense that shows up this Sunday, it's over quick.
We'll get to that later in the show. Right now, we're moving on to Second and Football and a gentleman by the name of Bill Belichick. Man, heard of him. Remember when he was released by the Patriots? We had a conversation right here about how every team would want him to come in and coach for them. Well, guess what? Seems like thus far, the market hasn't been that hot for Belichick. He interviewed with the Falcons twice, and they haven't gotten a deal done. So question for you is this, of these teams you see right here, which one can you imagine Belichick coaching for? Which one should he coach for? And why has the market been a little quiet for him?
Well, I'm shocked by it all. So if you take the Chargers off that list, only because it does look like that they have the financial parts of the deal with Harbaugh done, that takes them off the list. The Seahawks is the best job, in my opinion, of those four. A, they're in the NFC, and B, you've got pretty good talent on that team and a lot of weapons and a pretty good defense. Not leads you to doom good, but boom good, but pretty good. I'm baffled. I don't know what messaging Bill Belichick or his agent's putting out there of what he's looking for, but you have organizations that have never won. You have organizations that the cupboard's not bare, that do have some talent. You have organizations that I think are a great leader away from making a legitimate run. Dallas, Philadelphia, and on. And only one team has even brought the greatest of all time in for an interview. That, to me, is embarrassing. And that, to me, is insulting to Bill Belichick. And you're going to learn about Bill Belichick if he takes the Atlanta job. Something very interesting. The guy is desperate to continue to coach and didn't want to leave New England. He wants to keep coaching. He wants to break Don Shula's record for most wins in the history of the NFL. He's probably 2 seasons of just over 500 record in doing that. As you see, he's 14 wins away from tying Shula. So a couple 9-8 seasons, and he's the all-time winningest coach in the history of the NFL, which clearly is important to him. But at what cost? Like, as a man, at what cost are you now going to humble yourself and go work for Atlanta? Are you going to take the Carolina job? And where is everybody that acknowledges that B squared is the greatest coach in the history of football? How come they're not clamoring to get him to come in? Why did the Eagles decide we're bringing Sirianni back, press conference today, and we're not even interested in Bill Belichick? Why did the Dallas Cowboys say Mike McCarthy's coming back? We have no interest in Bill Belichick. There's something fishy in that Bill Belichick water.
I think I get it because sex sells, and this is what he's been looking like. This is what he's been looking like on camera, Craig, if we can throw it up there. Look at that raggedy-ass Bill Belichick, looking old and tired. He's old and tired. His resume is old. Like, when you talk about all the cities that he now has to stand in front and this young locker room and be able to connect to, you want to talk to a guy like that? You want to listen to an old ass? You look like he fell out of a trunk. Like, come on, man. Like, there's no connection. You can honestly, his resume speaks for himself.
Yeah.
You can't even talk about
Right.
it. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to connect to that locker room. There's not one guy that was on this team this year and talked glowingly about Bill Belichick. They said we played for a great coach, but there was a disconnect. That's why they lost. So if you're going to hire Bill Belichick, you're going to have to put somebody alongside of him that's going to construct the roster that is conducive to what he can do from a coach's standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, to me, just give me a team that's got a quarterback, and I'm going to win a lot of games with Bill Belichick as my head coach, period, stop.
Yeah, I think after he gets with the team, I think we'll find out that it was really his decision. You think about what Tom Brady did, like when he left.
He went to the best possible scenario.
He knew
Right.
where he wanted to end up.
Yep.
And so Bill Belichick has earned the right to be selective.
Sure.
And so it's not that he probably isn't getting phone calls or teams aren't inquiring. He's selective. He's not just going to go anywhere. He wants to go to the
Yeah,
best
but
fit.
Atlanta?
Any chance he waits?
I think Seahawks is probably
Any
the
chance
best
he says,
spot.
you know what? Looking at the landscape.
No, I
Look
don't
at the
think so.
landscape. Maybe let's wait for
I
next
don't
year.
think he
All those
can.
teams
I
are
don't think
NFC
he can
teams,
sit
by the way,
out.
besides the Chargers.
I get the sense, it's a great question. Like, if you're Belichick, why not take the year off, recharge the batteries, get some rest?
You know why, but
every
you know why.
network in
Then
America
take
would
over
hire
for
him.
McCarthy.
And then wait for McCarthy to fail again, wait for Sirianni to embarrass himself again, and then come in, the white knight on the horse, the whole bit, and save the franchise. I don't understand why Bill Belichick is willing to humble himself by taking an Atlanta job, which maybe he doesn't get, and not wait out for the best possible scenario. Like, that to me makes no sense at all. And if you're one of those franchises that believes they have a franchise quarterback, how in the world would you not want to bring in the greatest coach of all time?
Takes him 2
Mind-boggling.
years to break the record, so he can take a year off and
Yeah,
break
but
the
you
record.
also got to understand the couch gets comfortable too. Right? He's an old man. He's been at this for a long time. He may find a little comfort on that couch.
So, of course, the big guy said that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Sex sells.
I was
Sex
giving out
sells.
the phone number
Sex
to
sells.
call in right there. That's right. That's the first time I've done that in a year and a half. I started giving out the phone number to call into the show.
801 Carton. Just call it. 801 Carton.
A year and a half. One time in a year and a half. 877. What is it?
Let's get a phone number. Yeah, why not?
All right, coming up, we've got an update on the aftermath in Buffalo, who missed their shot at maybe making a run to the Super Bowl, but they feel pretty good about themselves, shockingly. We'll explain right after this. The Buffalo Bills had an opportunity to go to the AFC Championship game, and then Tyler Bass decided to kick the ball to Erie.
Wide right.
Wide right indeed, my friends. But here's the good news if you're a diehard Bills fan. Brandon Beane, who's their general manager, says we were right there, and we're in such a good place, we're not going to make any major changes. Listen to GM Brandon Beane. Go ahead.
In field goal range to tie with a chance to take the lead. We were right there.
Right
so
there.
while we're extremely disappointed, nobody's more disappointed than me.
Yeah, okay.
I'm also not going to just throw the whole season out and say, let's tear this thing up and start over.
Here's the good news. The Pagulas are going to take care of that for you, the owners of the Bills. And they'll be looking for a new general manager
Right.
and in time a new head coach as well. Here's the problem with what Brandon Beane said, because factually he's not wrong.
Exactly.
They were a field goal away at home
lie.
for tying the game and maybe going into overtime, and you're rolling the dice. But he's tone deaf. And when you have a great fan base like the Buffalo Bills do, you have 1,000 people showing up to shovel snow for a couple dollars, and they don't even have a ticket to the game. And you've got 80,000 strong that never miss a single game. And you've been singing the same bad song from the 1950s for 100 years there. Every time they score a touchdown, shout, the whole thing they do. You can't come out 48 hours later and tell Bills fans that they were this close and everything's going to be great. Because speaking for Bills fans, as a guy that lived in Buffalo and had season tickets to the Bills and dated a couple Buffalo Jills that were the cheerleaders back in the day, the reality is this. Bills fans are pissed, and rightfully so, because this was going to be the year when we beat the mountain, when we beat Patrick Mahomes, because we got him in our building and we didn't get the job done. Nobody wants to hear a guy wearing J. Crew sweaters talking about how close we were and we were a field goal away. Nobody wants to hear that.
Right. Nobody wants to hear it. They want to hear you complain. They want to hear you sulk.
You want a guy ticked off?
Yeah.
I'm beside myself. I haven't slept since Sunday.
Right.
I can't believe we lost that game. You have my word and my pledge that it will be better next year. You don't want to hear a guy who came out of an Abercrombie and Fitch commercial from 25 years ago going, we were really close. We were a field goal away from tying the game. Like, dude, we know how the game ended. It's on you. We did our job.
That's the reality, though. Like, spot the lie of what he's talking about. Like, the reality is they went into that game at home. Which
Favored.
Favored, absolutely. But they understood what they were up against. And it was Patrick Mahomes, something that they haven't been able to overcome in the postseason. However, you can only do so much. Right? What do we want him to do? Get a new quarterback? That's not happening. The quarterback isn't the problem. You want him to fire the coach that got them You want them to fire the coach that actually got them into this position?
Yeah, but he hasn't delivered.
Let me answer those questions.
I understand that, but when I'm looking at what they were able to overcome, that accounts for something.
But what Craig is saying is that when you're in a press conference and you have an emotional loss like that, somebody's head has to roll. It always starts at the top. If you sit down, if I'm the GM, I'm like, listen, we've underperformed. We made the changes at the OC. We actually revamped. We was playing a playoff game ever since we let go of Ken Dorsey. We're at 5-5 at one point, and we had an opportunity to beat our rivals, and it didn't happen. This is on Sean McDermott. This is on me as a GM. This is me as an organization. We got to figure a way how to make Josh Allen better. You just got to say something. But you can't say is, oh, well, we had it. We were right there, John. Like that.
You're all right. To answer your question, no, you're not going to get rid of the coach, and you're not going to get rid of the quarterback. But what thing he needs to say, what we all want him to say is this: I got a lot of work to do this offseason.
That too.
You know what I mean? Like,
that too.
It's not a teardown, but we need to renovate this place because we need a better receiving core. We're old. Every position on defense is somebody in their 30s. Like, he has a lot of work to do, and I want to hear him recognize that instead of saying what he's not.
It's just tone deaf is what it is. I'll give you an example. Show me the video. Remember the guy with the bad tattoo on his arm crying after the game?
Tattoo.
Right there, that guy got a Buffalo Bills Super Bowl tattoo. Do you think that guy liked what he heard out of the GM yesterday? You know, we were really, really close.
Oh, man.
Look at that guy. Look at that guy. That guy's ticked off that the GM's like, we're really close. We almost did it. And speaking of that guy, he joins us live. Hi, this is Derek. Derek was that guy with the bad tattoo and the thin arms. Who's down in Miami right now. Derek, how you doing, buddy?
That's what I want to get into about the skinny arm stuff. I don't appreciate what you guys said yesterday. I don't appreciate y'all calling me an idiot, saying I don't have a girlfriend, making fun of how skinny I am, saying I can't do a push-up, spaghetti arms, all that.
Yeah.
I may be skinny, but I'm a 1-0 professional boxer, and I can knock any guys out in the ring. So.
That's my guy.
All right, there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
He said 1-0.
Start with Greg Jennings. You'll see how that goes. All right, so Derek, here's the question. There is some dispute online as to your fandom for the Buffalo Bills and how hard you took that loss. Are you legitimately a Buffalo Bills fan?
Absolutely not, and I never said I was a Bills fan. I'm a professional sports bettor, and I had a lot of money on the Bills to win the Super Bowl.
Got it. So you lost your money on the Bills. That's why we see the tears there. But explain the Bills tattoo, buddy.
So, yeah, like I said, I'm a professional sports bettor, and I've somehow developed a reputation online on social media that the picks I give out are not good, that I'm terrible, and that is pretty frustrating.
Sure.
And I decided to take a big swing to change the narrative, and it blew up in my face, and it backfired. I thought if I got a Bills tattoo before they won and won a big future on them, I thought I would cement myself as one of the better, if not the best sports bettor.
So basically, you try to pull the old Jimmy the Greek. The Jimmy the Greek story is that back in 1969, he was the only guy in America picking the New York Jets to beat the Colts to win the Super Bowl. You try to kind of capture that legacy and go out in front of the crowd, get the tattoo before the game, and then you know kind of gloat to everybody that you finally got one right. But here's the question. If you're admittedly not very good at it, why do you...
No, I'm not. I didn't admit that.
Well, you said that people talk about how bad your picks are, yeah?
That's other people. I want to make that clear.
I see that.
No,
Okay. That's the difference.
Okay.
you don't just... I get paid to give out picks. You think I'm bad? You think I got that job, losing?
Yes.
We would think so.
I mean, if the Bills were your lock of the century, I mean, who's buying your picks?
I got him at lock of the century. I got him at plus 2,500. I would say it was a pretty darn good bet. How was I supposed to know Tyler Bass couldn't kick a 44-yard
Oh,
field goal?
gotcha. Yeah.
And can you explain in that weather the shirt being off, the lonely crying, and the moment that went viral? Walk me through that real quick.
Yeah, I wanted to. I thought I could survive the weather being shirtless the whole game. I said that's what I was going to do. I'm not going to lie, I got a little cold and I put on a jacket for a little while, but I was shirtless for a good amount of the time. And then that video you see there, that's when it all sinks in that I did something permanent to my, body that I have to live with.
Yeah, well, maybe next year. Maybe next year. Before I let you go, I got to ask, because you said you do it for a living, who's your Super Bowl pick?
Yeah,
The
so
Bills.
I don't like these jokes, but
You can't do nothing about it. And they're Miami.
Right, it wasn't the
And they're
joke. You got the
horrible. You
tattoo.
got a horrible tattoo on your body.
that's the other thing. I get this tattoo on my body that I got to live with, and then I wake up, the next day to being blasted on national television.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome to America.
It happens. All right, real quick, just tell me.
And also, I don't even know who any of you guys were.
Yeah,
except
that
for
matters.
Yeah, you never heard of
Yeah.
a
The
Packer
only
Hall
reason
of
Greg
Famer. It's all
is
good.
known is because of a Madden glitch, all right? Pretty quiet.
All right, real
Yeah,
quick.
you need to find Google.
Who's the Super Bowl champion? Tell us right now. Go.
I'm on the Lions. Go Lions, baby.
All right.
Oh,
Derek, appreciate you coming on, buddy.
why you suck.
I appreciate you
Hey,
owning
Jack.
your viral moment with the thin
What an
arms
idiot.
But he just want to know as a fighter, he said.
oh God. Man, I pick my teeth with Derek, man.
So there you go. We got to take a quick break. Line of the interview. You're nothing but a Madden glitch.
Yeah, disrespectful.
I love that. All right, coming up, Chiefs and Ravens as we get ready for the AFC Championship game. Good question. Who's got more weapons at the skill positions? We'll get into that conversation right after this.
Good morning! Welcome back to the Carton Show. And I have a question for you. We always talk about Mahomes versus Jackson. Mahomes versus Jackson. My question is the opposite. Which quarterback has better offensive weapons around him? Mahomes or Jackson, Mr. Carton?
Well, I think it's Jackson right now. They're very deep, and they're deep at every position. They got multiple running backs, 3 deep now with Dalvin Cook's there. Obviously, you've got 2 tight ends now with Mark Andrews coming back and likely doing the great job he's done from a wide receiver standpoint. You got 3 deep for sure, maybe a 4th one, although I'm not a big fan of Aguilar because he drops on the balls that hit him right in the hands.
Caught one.
Yeah, he caught one, yes.
Caught one.
Also dropped one afterwards. But I think right now, from a skill position standpoint, the Ravens have the edge. I've also said all week, and I'm going to continue to say it, they've got the edge everywhere. Outside of quarterback, because Mahomes is special, and it seems like we have to say that every time we talk about the matchup here, the Ravens are the better team. Period, stop. The expectation that America has is that, Kansas City's got Mahomes, so it'll be a good game or maybe Kansas City wins it. But when you base it purely on talent, no disrespect to the great run and their 19th consecutive AFC Championship game with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the Ravens are superior across the board on both sides of the field. That's it.
Yeah, I think especially with the addition of Dalvin Cook, he had a big run in that game, late in that game against the Texans, that I thought he's the one impact guy, because if you're able to kind of get him spread out, because he can catch the ball too. I don't know why people don't throw him the ball enough, but
he's their
also
third running back.
Right, but if you allow him to now get into that offense, it's clear side. It's the Ravens. They're the better team matched up.
Really, I disagree. I don't think it's just that clear cut that it's the Ravens. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and what they do have, you got Isaiah Pacheco, who's a very formidable running back. He's been showing himself to be excellent back for them.
Sure.
Then you got, obviously, the best tight end to ever do it in Travis Kelce. We want to say he's not the same, but then last week against the Bills, he shows up and it's like, Travis Kelce is back. Then you got a young emerging Rashee Rice, who you look at him and say Flowers, and you're like, well, who had the better season? One could argue that Rashee Rice had the better season. So for me, it's about those guys, but what I do like about the talent that Lamar has around him is how they're using them. and the style of offense that they're playing. In that second half, when they started to separate themselves from the Texans, this is what Lamar Jackson has about the ability to do now. The quick pass game, get the ball in his playmaker's hands. That was Nelson Aguilar. This is likely. We're not going to see Zay Flowers, but we're going to see Rashad Bateman. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly because he has talent around him that he has never been afforded. This is the difference between Patrick Mahomes of old and what we still see in Lamar Jackson of current. He has the luxury of guys around him.
You also see something there, not to get too technical, that you guys can speak of more you so as an offensive lineman. He's got time.
Yeah.
He's got clean pockets.
Absolutely.
Like he's standing there. And, if the average quarterback, has 2-point-something seconds, to make a read and get the ball out of his hands, he's got 3 seconds. That offensive line in that game that you showed highlights from did a very good job allowing guys to get down the field, allowing him to survey the field and pick his poison on every single play.
Yeah, and because of the injuries on the D-line for the Texans, they knew they was going to have to blitz him. And they blitzed him, I think, 70% of the time. They tried to get after Lamar Jackson. He answered the test time after time. So this is what when I talk about from the neck up, this is a big game from Lamar Jackson because we know his skill set wise, athleticism, he's through the roof. But from the neck up, can he continue to make the right decisions with the football, get the Bateman and the Aguilars and some of these guys the ball? And by the way, he was getting rid of the ball real fast. It was like it was coming out in 2 seconds. So
primarily in the second half.
We talk about this a lot with other guys. I think it's fair to say too about Lamar Jackson. This is his legacy game.
100%.
Because Mahomes has it. Mahomes has won a couple Super Bowls. He's been a league MVP. He's a first, ballot Hall of Famer. If his career ended today, he beats everybody. Only Joe Burrow has really matched him in a big game.
And the reason why we talk about Joe Burrow and we hold him in that high regard, he hasn't won an MVP, but what has he done? He beat Patrick Mahomes.
Which is like being an MVP.
Patrick Mahomes and he got his team to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has a MVP in his pocket and is about to place another one in his other pocket. But what he hasn't done in the postseason is beat this guy. You beat this guy, it is a legacy builder and a cementer, and then you go on to win the Super Bowl. I mean, what can you say about it?
He came into this playoff with 1 playoff win.
Yep.
All right, so now he's double that. He got the monkey off his back. He got the playoff win against a hot team.
And no true great playoff performances.
That's right. So now it's America's watching and the GOAT's coming into town. Right, the best quarterback of his generation is coming into town. He's already proven I can win on the road. The Kansas City offense in the 2 playoff games. And yes, talking about a depleted, Miami team, a depleted Bills defense, but it doesn't matter. Those guys came out and said, you want us? We're coming to get you. Yep. What are you going to do about it? Now, I think the Ravens are a different animal.
100%.
I think this Ravens team is the best team in all of football, and I thought they proved that over the last month of the season. Take week 18 out. Obviously, none of the starters played. So Kansas City, while they're great, and they've got the resume, and they got the pedigree, Baltimore represents something in this game that Kansas City has not seen the entire year, and that's called a good football team. Because they don't have, and not their fault, but go back and check their schedule. Who did they beat? Nobody.
If you think Kansas City is going to win, it's like you almost believe in the uniform more than the roster. Like Kansas City has the reputation, but the Ravens have the roster. And when you get back to the question of who's got the better weapons, is I like Pacheco better than the group of running backs for the Ravens. And I like Kelsey better than the tight ends for the Ravens. But here's the thing: the Ravens are deep because you start getting into Noah Gray and MBS and Mecole Hardman. They'll counter that with OBJ and Zay Flowers.
But there's also another side to that. And look, I wouldn't argue that Kelsey's arguably the best pass-receiving tight end in history of football. Right? Pacheco has become a go-to guy that you can trust, who's got this burst of speed he didn't have, his rookie season. But here's the reality, and I know it's going to seem silly. Travis Kelce's not going up against Mark Andrews.
No.
Right? We're going to compare what he did against the Baltimore defense versus what Likely and Andrews does, against them. We discount the fact, all of us, that the Baltimore Ravens have the best running offense in the entire league. A lot of that's because Lamar Jackson ran for 800 yards this year. You've got 3 running backs, right? Between Justice Hill, who's a game breaker, Edwards, who's their short yardage guy, and now the addition of Dalvin Cook, who will play a role in this game. You've got depth at wide receiver. And I'm looking at a Kansas City team, even though you give them credit for winning on the road against Buffalo, we all sat here and said it on Monday, they got abused in the run game on defense. Well, now you've got the best rushing attack in the entire league going up against a defense that can't stop the run. Going to be a long day for Kansas City.
I agree. And you also got to understand, like Patrick Mahomes in the game against Buffalo, he had those big 8-chunk plays, right, down the field. He's not going to have that against Baltimore, right? Because if you talked about who Kelsey's going to be dealing with, he's going to be dealing with Patrick McQueen, Raekwon Smith, Kyle Hamilton. Those are guys are all pros, so this is going to be a different outfit they've never seen before. And if Patrick Mahomes isn't able to kind of get that connection with Kelsey, the game's going to be over early.
Okay, I think we got to slow down and saying what Patrick Mahomes is not going to be able to do.
He's not going to be able to do it against that defense.
He's been able to do whatever he wanted to do.
That's not true.
And for me, when I look at the Kansas City Chiefs defense, yes, they gave up a lot of rush yards in the first half of that game, and then they corrected, and which is what they've been able to do in the postseason and really for the last half of the season, well, the last month of the season is in the second half. They just don't give up a lot of points. So defensively, they have guys on the perimeter, McDuffie, Snead. They have linebackers. They have pass rush. Like, they're the second best sack team in the league behind the Baltimore Ravens. Like, their defense is right there behind the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not saying that they're better.
To me, this is also a team that lost to the Denver Broncos and the Vegas Raiders, and that's it. That's in there. That's in there. That's in there.
They were a different version of Chief than.
And remember, I know this is going to seem silly. Go back and watch the tape. Remember what the Jets defense did to Kansas City's offense. I know Kansas City won the game, but remember what a really good defense did to that offense.
The Ravens don't have a clean sheet either if you look back at their season. Like, there's that game against the Steelers, the game at home against the Colts. Like,
Here we go.
I don't think they lost again this year, did they?
Yeah, they did. Moving on to our second headline that involves the NFC matchup. It's something you alluded to earlier, Mr. Carton.
Yes.
That is the Lions' pass defense. Those numbers on the right side of the screen.
Take that off the screen.
Those are big numbers.
What are we doing?
So,
Derek back here.
does this tell you that the machine Brock Purdy will just pick apart this pass defense and move up and down the field?
Yes, it's going to shut a lot of big mouths up on TV and radio this week, too, because that passing attack is going to look like the second coming of the greatest show on turf. They're going to be able to do anything they want in the passing game. And then, oh, by the way, you also had Christian McCaffrey on the ground if they choose to, right? I think you're looking at Brock Purdy setting an NFC Championship game record with passing yards against the Detroit defense. And I love the Detroit story, I do. And I love the people in Detroit. And I love the fact that the Lions are now a legitimate competitor. It's all good, but you also got to keep it real. Right? This is the worst pass defense in all of football. You just saw the numbers up there. And in the last 5 games, consecutively, they've given up over 300 yards. And 2 of those games was against the worst quarterback in the history of football, Nick Mullins. No disrespect, you suck. Right? So what is Brock the Machine Purdy and Brandon Ayuk and Debo if he plays and George Kittle and Jennings and McCaffrey? Those guys are sitting there. They are licking their chops with the matching mushroom jacket on the inside saying, let's go. We play this game on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. It don't matter.
Right.
San Fran is going to put on a clinic against the Detroit Lions.
And that's why it's up to Jared Goff to establish or try to establish the time, win the time of possession. He's going to have to keep Brock Purdy.
And by the way, the record in the NFC Championship game is 396 yards. Matt Ryan did it before they choked in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady and the Patriots. Brock Purdy will set the single game record for passing yards in an NFC Championship game. By the way, and I think he throws for 500 yards in this game. It's going to be, y'all don't think that I'm a good quarterback?
No,
I'm going to throw the ball to you.
What everybody thinks he's a good quarterback.
Throw to you. Brock, I'm going to throw it over there to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Dimes, dots, that's right, lasers. Yeah, I can't wait. Brock Purdy's going to shut everybody up. And in the post-game press conference, because he's that guy, he's going to say, the good Lord blessed me with an opportunity to play football, and I'm just looking forward to my next game.
So
Period. Stop.
So pretty much Brock for president.
So
at this
for me,
point.
I vote for him.
For me, I don't think that's the way you approach this game, because when we've seen Brock Purdy and this San Francisco offense struggle in a game, they don't come back just throwing the ball and putting it on him in the passing game. Will they be able to attack it? Absolutely.
Yep.
But what we've seen when they've struggled, they They have to establish the running game in Christian McCaffrey. That will open up everything for you. When you look at why Brock Purdy is the machine that you call him and what makes him that machine, it's when that running game is going and they have action fake to implement in that passing game, which opens and clears up all the pictures.
You got the best running back in football standing next to you.
But the Lions are stout against the run. They're horrible against the pass, but run defense.
But what happens if he throws for 400 yards, right? Like our friend says.
Craig said 500.
What's going to be? It's going to be 150 air yards and 250 yards after the catch, because that's what Brock Purdy does.
Yeah, that's what every quarterback
That's what he does.
But that'll be for those that still don't want to believe that he's a great quarterback. That'll be a storyline when you know he threw that ball only 3 yards, and then McCaffrey did the rest.
That's what happens.
He was a jet sweep to Debo. That kind of nonsense. And look, there's not a quarterback in the league that's had great success who doesn't benefit from his guys running really well after they catch the ball. Tua averages 16 yards a game. When it comes to how far he throws the ball, and then Tyreek and Waddle do the rest. So again, we invent these new ways of being critical of a guy that just goes out there and wins every time he plays.
You're absolutely right. There's no team and no quarterback that drops back and throws the ball 20 yards down the field every single time they throw the ball. You have to get little chunk plays and plays.
Craig? First of all, you have your guy. It's C.J. Stroud. That's what he does.
I do. But when you look at the chart, it's not just 10, 15 yards down the field every time they drop back.
C.J. Stroud led the league in explosive plays down the field.
I'm not saying that he didn't, but what I'm saying is it's overstated because those are the plays we show. We don't show the plays that are a 5-yard play or a screen that breaks off for 100 yards or 50 yards.
I've done this a very, very long time, and I've never seen people collectively across the country invent ways of being critical about a guy who has only won. He's been in the league for 2 years. He's in back-to-back championship games. And for some reason, people don't want to embrace that or accept the fact that the kid's really, really good. What else do you want the guy to do? In his first year, he didn't lose a game. In his second year, he's the number 1 seed, and he's in another championship game. And despite playing poorly in a divisional playoff game, he led them on a game-winning drive with less than 3 minutes to go. But we have to invent these cockamamie things to break the kid down and be critical. Well, I say this, I put my flag down. Not on my watch. All this kid has done is win.
Willie Colon, what does he have to do?
He has to win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Okay, right. Other quarterbacks just have to get there. He has to win it.
No, Lamar has to win it.
Lamar has to win it. Lamar, Goff, all these guys can go in. The only person that pretty doesn't have any pressure is Patty in these playoffs. Everybody else has to show up.
The kid has been in the league for 25 games. He's now in back-to-back championship games and led the team to a number 1 seed.
You're the same guy that said as heavy as those who wear the crown,
That's right.
Well, the crown is him because of the offense and because of what he has in front of him. They only have a short window to go get it done.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, man, then you got to put the pressure on his shoulders.
Look, there's pressure on him. He's the starting quarterback of the number 1 seed, favored by a touchdown.
I give him credit because he's taken the team that has probably never been in NFC Championship games.
Here we go.
Never been in the Super Bowl in the last 15 years. They have.
Yeah.
They have.
This is crazy talk to me.
But Greg's not wrong. They've been here. We know who they are.
I don't understand the bias against a guy that all he's done is show up every Sunday and ball out and play great.
He's a good quarterback.
He's better than a good quarterback.
No, you haven't said that.
He's a great quarterback. He's the 3rd best quarterback in all of football.
You don't even believe that.
Here's the difference. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, $250 million. Josh Allen had the ball to go win in a playoff game at home. What did he do?
He just
drove his team down and missed the field goal.
This guy had a game to win, and he won it in the biggest spot of all. 30 million people watching, Fox TV, a pouring rainstorm, and Brock Purdy shed it off, and he said, I'm your Huckleberry, and he led them down the field. Why is there so much distrust and negativity around a good kid? That's a good kid. He's a good kid. And I won't see you mess him up.
He's a good kid.
I won't see you mess him up.
We've done this before. When coaches know that they have a really good person, they talk about, he's worked as hard as he's ever worked. He looks really good in camp.
It's not your fault.
All these things. He's a good kid.
It's not your fault, Brock.
Can he play quarterback?
Not you, Sean. Not you. It's not your fault, Brock. These people people, I don't know what the bias is.
Just win.
Just win the Super Bowl.
Just win the Super Bowl.
All he's done is win.
Just
No,
win
he
the Super
hasn't.
Bowl.
Oh, okay.
All that team has done is win.
Well, you guys moved the goalposts on this kid more
Oh,
than
no,
any
you
kid.
moved the goalpost.
All right. So anything short of a Super Bowl championship, all of a
Is
sudden.
that not the standard for every quarterback in the playoffs right now?
Can't trust Brock Purdy. Can't trust Brock Purdy. You guys have embarrassed yourselves today. and I'm embarrassed to be associated with all three of you.
Oh,
I don't know what the hell's going on here.
We're moving on to our next headline, and that involves the fresh off a national championship for Michigan. Jim Harbaugh is getting very close to getting a deal done for the Los Angeles Chargers. What do you think of fit between Harbaugh and the Chargers?
I don't understand how you guys can come out here and
Why
say,
are we still
We're
here?
talking about something
Why-
else
I'm talking about Jim
now.
Harbaugh.
We got another hour and a half.
Get back here.
yeah, oh, you want Justin Herbert over him? Justin Herbert hasn't won a single playoff game
Fact.
in his life. All this
I
kid
would
does
take Herbert
is
over
go
him.
to
Kyle
championship
Shanahan
games.
would say
I would take Herbert over
Kyle
him.
Shanahan might try to go get him.
I hope Jim Harbaugh gets the job in L.A. He makes the Chargers a legitimate competitor to the Kansas City ownership of the AFC West.
Yeah.
He's a great coach. It's a great hire. As I understand it, the money's been worked out. All good in the hood. Probably gets close to what Sean Payton got, which was 5 years, $18 million a year. He may even get more than that. Michigan's got a 10-year deal on the table for $1.25.
They do.
So fewer years, similar money. That's an obvious. You take that job. Plus, you don't have to deal with 19-year-old knuckleheads running around campus doing the silly things that we've all did when we were 19 years old. And he instantaneously makes the Chargers a threat in the AFC. He's not a good coach. He is a great coach. And he appreciates what Brock Purdy has done in San
How do you
Francisco.
go back to Brock?
He appreciates it.
Jim has a quarterback.
By the way, if I was Jim Harbaugh, I'd trade Herbert for Brock Purdy today.
Okay.
Just like that.
Kyle Shanahan
Yeah.
would
Just
take
like that.
trade.
Kyle Shanahan said
Just
yes
like
too
that.
fast.
John Lynch is like, please
He
pick
said
up the
yes
phone.
And I'll tell you something
I'll
else.
Brock will go.
Call the
You
league
want
while
to
he's still
talk
on the
about
phone.
your bang for your buck? We're all looking for a good deal when we go shopping. There's no quarterback in the league that gives you better bang for your buck than my guy
Now
right
that
there.
right
Now
there,
you're right.
that
You're not
is
gonna get
fact.
no argument
That
there.
is true.
All right, so we're dealing with a Costco Brock Purdy. How you saying?
Both Purdy.
Right.
You got Kirkland Purdy over there. You got the Kirkland Purdy over there.
You know that they lose money on those rotisserie chickens every year at Costco?
Why?
Yeah. But that just brings people
Gets
in.
in the building.
Yeah,
Gets
they
in
lose
the building.
$100 million a year on the chicken, but they make $350 on everything else we buy.
I go for
because
the-
I need 100
I'll
cans
take
of
you over.
tuna.
Take you over.
I'm only there for the surface.
Anyhow, stop the negativity around a good kid and a great quarterback in Brock Purdy. Because I tell you what, when they're parading past all those homeless people in San Francisco enjoying another Super Bowl title, which they're going to do, I can't wait to hear all the Johnny-come-latelys talk about, well, you know, they won a Super Bowl. How do you miss? How do you miss? How do you
Extended
and by the way,
stills. That's the most unathletic thing you've done on this show.
you only get one shot.
Right, you do.
You only get one shot at aggression. I got it. I got you. I got you. We got to take a break. But no disrespect
camera.
while I'm
Sucks.
here. I put my flag in the ground. I got your back, Brock Purdy.
Oh,
Wow.
Are you kissing him?
That's my guy right there.
Oh, man.
I can't wait to hear the negativity when he wins the Super Bowl. Can't wait to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Knuckleheads. All right, one NBA thing for you. Ever since the New York Knickerbockers made the trade for Anunoby, they are 10-2. We're down 9 in the second half against the lowly Nets last night. Came all the way back in Brooklyn, took care of business.
Yes, sir.
And the Knicks right now, the team nobody wants to see in a 7-game series. And I have to acknowledge this. My guy right there, Jacoby, when the trade went down, and most Knicks fans are like, I can't believe you got rid of Quigley. I can't believe you got rid of RJ for Anunoby. He came out and said, I like the trade.
Love the trade.
My God.
I love the trade. People always forget there's two sides of the basketball court. 50% of the time you're on the basketball court, you're playing defense.
Yes, sir.
And they had no one that could play defense. And now they have a true stopper who can play your point guard and your power forward. I love the trade. I love OG for them. You do not want to see them because that's what good teams do. When they're down the entire game, they say, wait a second, we're better than them.
Yeah.
And they win in the end.
Yeah, and just a message to Candace Parker. Jalen Brunson averaged 31 points a game in the second round of the playoffs last year. He did not regress from round 1 to round 2. Do your homework. All right, from that, we go to my main man, Greg Jennings. Because Greg Jennings is a social media maven right now. But first, let me tell you about Subway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, that's
The
on me.
meats.
This segment is sponsored by Subway. Try a delicious new They call it the Carton. It's the foot-long cookie, pretzel, or churro sidekick.
Ooh, foot-long cookie.
You can get the Carton at Subway.
No words ever said in any locker room.
At Subway today. All right. Thank you, Subway. There's McCaffrey. There's San Francisco doing what they do. But Greg Jennings went on Twitter or X yesterday. He was bored here in New York City and said if the Niners don't make the Super Bowl, should they look to replace the third best quarterback in all football?
I love how you made a statement into a question.
And Brock Purdy. So, Greg, you wrote it. You were not hacked, right? No. Were you hacked?
That's your account?
So that's your comment. So just so I get this right, you're asking the question, if San Fran loses the NFC Championship game against the Lions, should they replace the guy that has taken them to back-to-back NFC Championship games while making less than $1 million a year? That was you.
Yes.
Are you appearing at the Comedy Cellar tonight?
No, not at all. I don't do comedy.
No. Are you in Gotham? You going to Gotham tonight?
Nope.
No?
All real. So here's the thing. Did they replace a guy that got them to a similar situation?
You talking about Jimmy G?
Yeah, they did.
They did, right?
Yeah.
Why did they replace that guy?
Because he was hurt all the time. He couldn't finish a single season.
And did you believe that he could get it done?
I was a fan of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Everybody was bamboozled by the fact that, Jimmy Garoppolo is he wins, guys. He wins.
That's right.
Did he win the most important game?
No, he got to a Super Bowl, did not win.
Did not win.
Right.
So for me, when you look at this team, the one thing that they have around them are difference makers.
Sure.
Perimeter, in the backfield, under center, they have not had a difference maker. They've had good quarterbacks, game-managing quarterbacks. If you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, I think Brock Purdy is more than that. He's a really good quarterback. I'll give him that. He is not a difference maker. And so when you are trying to win a Super Bowl, when you are trying to do things that guy has done, what is that guy? He is a difference maker. That guy that I'm pointing to is Patrick Mahomes, just in case you can't see what you could.
He's right there.
You have to have that guy at quarterback. And if you falter against the Detroit Lions and a guy that's similar to you, that has done it not only in one location with the Rams under Sean McVay, which we gave all McVay the credit but then he backs it up and does it again and gets another team and another system to an NFC championship and possibly get to the Super Bowl. Well, if he beats you, he gets the Super Bowl. Well, he's better than you. And so how can you sit here and say, you know what, we're going to hitch our wagon and maintain what we have with Brock Purdy, and he doesn't get it done? Yeah, you can win all you want to, but winning is cool until you keep losing in the most important parts of the season at the most important time. So you can miss me with he's a good quarterback. You got to get a difference maker.
Yeah, so two things. The reason why they got Brock Purdy invalid, because he started off 4 years in college. He's a durable quarterback, one. And on top of that, two, the Niners have a better defense. Bottom line, period. The Lions are average at best. They got a really good stout run defense, but overall, you get pass all day. Brock Purdy I expect he's going to have a big time game, right? And solely from what he's done on tape and how he's responded after bad losses.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it. I understand your point, kind of. But
I don't.
Of course you don't.
And it's so because it's nonsensical, is what I don't understand, and it's atypical for you because most of your commentary on this show and on First Things First is based in some level of reality, and this one is just from Mars. I have stats.
Yes.
Give me my stats.
Oh, we got stats!
Yeah. Greg doesn't want stats.
Round we go.
So these are regular season stats: completion percentage top 5, yards top 5, touchdowns top 3, passer rating 1, yards per attempt, which is the number most quarterbacks are judged by. He's best in the league, better than everybody, including Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts.
Shoot, he's the best quarterback in the National Football League.
He might be. He very well might be, sir. That's right. But I know this. I know that when you put a guy behind a good team, and all these quarterbacks are now quarterbacking good teams, there's not a single quarterback standing right now that's quarterbacking a mediocre outfit. So let's just use the same lens to judge this guy that we used to judge every other guy. Because he's already overachieved based on where he got drafted, that's obvious, right? And he's already outplayed all these other great quarterbacks. How many championship games has Lamar Jackson gotten to? 0. How many games, has Josh Allen gotten to? 0. How about Tua? 0. All these other great quarterbacks outside of Joe Burrow, who is now a confirmed great quarterback, having beaten Mahomes and having gotten to a Super Bowl and a couple AFC championship games, you can put him aside because he's done it. Outside of that, there ain't a quarterback in the NFL, not named Mahomes, that this guy has not outperformed. And at some point, we have to acknowledge whether you want to give everybody else all the credit or come up with some other kind of cockamamie new rules that we're going to judge quarterbacks by, that he's been a quarterback in this league for 2 years. And in both years, he went to the championship game. And I'm sick and tired of the anti-Purdy crap. You actually said on this show yesterday that you'd rather have Justin Fields. I damn near threw up in my mouth when I heard you say that, because it's not typical for you. Why don't you like this guy?
I do.
I don't think you do.
It's just you're over the top with this guy.
All the guy does is win, no matter what.
Exactly, and so did Jimmy Garoppolo. And now he's sitting on the bench behind the Raiders.
Aiden O'Connell.
Exactly.
Right.
So make that make sense
he
to
ain't
me.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay. So
you're pretty much saying Purdy's system quarterback.
I'm not. I don't do the system thing. I don't, because I believe players make the system, and the system help assist the player. Anyway.
Yeah.
When I look at Brock Purdy.
Yes, sir.
And we look at them. Even let's go back to last year. If Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't get hurt, do we believe that they still make the NFC Championship?
I don't know. I can't answer these questions.
Exactly. I know you don't want to answer the question.
I don't know the answer.
But they were the favorites.
I know this, though. I know that when he came in as an unheralded Mr. Irrelevant, he didn't lose a single game, and that offense averaged 30 points a game. And this year, being the quarterback that started every single game, take out Week 18, obviously, he averaged 30 points a game. So I'm just trying to figure out, I know the answer. He's got to get to the Super Bowl and win it. But Jesus, criminy, what does this guy have to do? He's played 24, 25 regular season games. You know what his record is? He's 20-5.
Craig,
he's going to the Hall of Fame.
So here's a problem.
If he keeps that up.
Here's the problem. We all understand Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. Like, he's a good quarterback, right? And I think what the problem here is we just watch him play poorly. You can talk about the last drive. That's fine. He had a good drive.
Won the game.
He was 6 for 7, won the game, had the last drive. But he was pretty atrocious the first, second, and third quarter. I think that is why they're within rights to question his.
No, they're not. They're dead wrong. I'm sorry. I appreciate what you're saying, that you looked at 55 minutes, not 5 minutes, based on one game.
You look bad.
But if that's the argument, then you guys need to find new gigs, because that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Because we judge quarterbacks by what they do in the biggest moment.
Yes.
And the biggest moment was 3 minutes to go. You're trailing, and you played like crap. What are you going to do? And that dude, like you said, 6 out of 7. The only incomplete was a Kittle drop. Hit him right in the numbers. That wasn't on him. And the kid went on the field, grabbed his nuts, and said, I'm going to be the leader that gets us to the NFC Championship
Who's
game.
arguing that?
You guys are.
No, we're not. We're admitting that he did.
And that's why on Monday I brought up the example of Joe Montana. Because we always talk about that game with the catch and Dwight Clark. Joe Montana had 3 interceptions in that game. But all we remember is the triple clutch and throwing it over Everson Wall's hands to Dwight Clark. May he rest in peace. We don't talk about the warts and the pimples. We talk about game on the line, time running out. Did you get it done or not? And he got it done.
Did they win the Super Bowl that year?
Yes.
Exactly. That's why we can go back to that point and say that was the difference. That's why. Because he ended up winning it all.
And let's be fair. He didn't get a chance to go to the Super Bowl last year because he had the Tommy John injury to his elbow.
Yeah.
And this year, we haven't had the Super Bowl yet.
We can't do all of that. We understand. No one goes out there and says, I want to get injured. No, we get that.
Right.
But,
so you can't hold it against them?
I'm not holding that against them.
Go, sir.
What I would love to say to all the San Francisco fans that have everything to say and all this, are you okay with Brock Purdy if he loses in this championship game? Because you've been here before. You've experienced this type of quarterback where you win no matter what, until it's the most important game that you need to win, and you don't win it because you don't have the difference maker under center. So if you're good with that, great. He's a good quarterback. He's a great guy, as you say.
Yep.
He's not elite. I'm sorry. You wouldn't take a lot of quarterbacks you wouldn't take him over a lot of quarterbacks in this league. However, if you're just willing to say, I just want a good quarterback, he's your guy.
I tell you what, if we judge quarterbacks and the best quarterbacks based on what they do in the biggest games, then he's second to Mahomes. Because Josh Allen doesn't get the job done in crunch time in a playoff game. We saw that against Kansas City. Lamar Jackson only has a single going into this year, one playoff win, and blew the number 1 seed a couple years ago when he had it.
So don't do that. Don't do that because you're talking about the games that he has in his past in Lamar Jackson. But when we look at Brock Purdy and we look at his playoff career, he has one good game in the postseason against Seattle last year. The rest, he has not been great. So if you're going to do that with everybody else. Lamar Jackson's coming off one of the best games we've ever seen a quarterback play.
Second half,
Well, yeah, 4 touchdowns.
A half. And you're talking about one drive. See my point?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't do it.
You don't like it when it goes the other way.
No.
When I move the goalpost, you don't like that.
He's not an MVP.
He was in the MVP conversation.
Oh, nice. So was that.
Don't start with Dak Prescott.
Take it easy on Dak.
Another guy you can't trust in January. And he never sees February.
The problem is the 49ers are definitely going to win this weekend, and then we're going to have the same conversation for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And by the way,
I'm rooting for the Lions.
I can't wait.
To do this for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Bart Scott. Can't wait. I can't wait for the rematch, San Francisco-Baltimore, because that's the best Super Bowl. Let's not get that twisted. That's the Super Bowl we want, and that's the Super Bowl we should get. San Fran, Baltimore, the rematch, and then you and I can have that battle.
Just so you guys know,
I throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, like Craig is predicting, and we're still going to doubt him for 2 weeks.
Not me. Not me. I'm the leader of that fan club. Send all your mail to me. I'll take it. I appreciate the spirited debate.
I he played poorly last time you put on his uniform.
Okay, just again, quick question. If Josh Allen played as well as he did on the last drive, would the Bills be in the AFC Championship game?
What are we doing?
Yes or no?
What are we doing?
It's a fair question.
Okay. Thank you.
It is a fair question.
Yes or no?
What I'm saying is this is Brock Purdy against the Packers, there shouldn't have been a last drive. They should not have been trailing. This should not have been the first time out of 32 tries that Kyle Shanahan had to come back and win in the fourth quarter.
You guys gave Green Bay all the credit. I
did. I was
Green
Bay. I thought Jordan Love was going to get it.
Did Josh Allen do what Brock Purdy did early in the season and put his team in position to win the game and the kicker just blew it? Because that was your argument when they played the Cleveland Browns.
Well, the answer
he did exactly what you wanted to do.
To be fair, the answer to that question is no. Because he made his kicker in 30-mile-per-hour winds, kick a 44-yarder, when if he was smart and he dumped the ball off to Stephon Diggs, it's a 20-yard kick, maybe a touchdown.
Mahomes is getting a field goal.
I appreciate the comparison. You lose on that one, too. Anything else? We're good? Yeah. We should probably take a break.
And when we get back, more Brock Purdy.
Take a break. We probably take a little break, got cool off a little bit.
We should.
I'm just happy that Greg's here Super Bowl week because we're going to have a good time.
So much fun talking about Brock Purdy for the next 20
All right, coming up after this, let me just check my handy-dandy notebook here. What segment are we going into? A little something we call WTF Wednesday. How does it sound, though?
What the?
Yeah, that's coming
Wednesday.
up right after this. And if we have time, we'll do a segment you guys all love called Right Now.
Right now.
After this. Welcome back to the Carton Show. For those of you that are still bemoaning the Buffalo Bills loss, I do have good news for you. Their general manager, Brandon Beane, spoke yesterday about we were this close. And they did make one acknowledgement yesterday. They're making a major change to the future of games at Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. And it's a change to the goalposts. So this is the new goalpost out there. That's going to be out there.
Probably better suited.
Help
They might have to lean a little bit more to the left.
That's good.
I don't know if that's getting it done.
Yeah, that's just to help tie the bass out a little.
That should level them out a little bit. Yeah.
All right, from that, we go to everyone's favorite segment on Wednesday. What's it called again?
What the?
I only have a few for you today, because we're running late. Number one, the lead referee in the Kansas City-Baltimore game. On the heels of last week, we learned that the referee in the game favored Kansas City in every game he officiated prior to the game last weekend. The referee the NFL has chosen for Chiefs-Ravens goes out of his way to favor the road team in games that he has ref. Sean Smith is his name. So the road team wins, the home team rather, wins 40% of the time that he officiates their games. For every other ref, the home team wins essentially 56% of the time. And this season, in the 16 games that he officiated, the road team won outright 13 of those 16 games. So for those of you that do believe the NFL wants Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl, rooting on the Kansas City Chiefs, more proof to back up your crazy conspiracy theories.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I hope that's not a reason for Baltimore to go out there and stink it up.
But let's say it together. Hey, NFL!
Yeah. What the?
Yeah, let the best team win, not the team you want to be in the Super Bowl. Number 2, remember that fan with the skinny spaghetti arms that went viral for his Super Bowl tattoo?
Of course.
And crying after the game?
Never heard of him.
He joined us earlier today, and we found out he's not even a Bills fan.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So, skinny white guy.
What the?
Yeah, he put the tattoo on because he's a lousy handicapper of sporting events and had a whole bunch of money on Buffalo and thought by getting the tattoo, the sports guys
Supposedly a Lions
would
fan
give him a
now,
W.
too.
I don't know. And number 3, this goes back to my childhood. If you're over the age of 45, you'll appreciate this one. But amazingly, yesterday it happened. Kelly Kapowski turned 50.
Oh!
Kelly.
Yep. Kelly Kapowski,
Still got it, Kelly.
Got it.
Saved by the Bell fame, America's heartthrob. Every teenage boy had her poster on their closet wall. She is now an old woman,
That's all right.
Yeah.
50 years old, but still pretty good.
Still would. Still would.
I didn't say I wouldn't.
So-
Anyhow, that was a moment for me yesterday. That was a tough thing. So, hey, Father Time.
What the?
All right, from that we go to a little something we call First and Football, I believe.
First and
And that's
football.
Jacoby. Go ahead.
It is first down, and let's
She's
discuss
15.
the disarray that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Johnson, their offensive coordinator, has been announced that he will not be coming back. But there's some
What was
reports.
that?
There's some reports that there are people in the building unhappy about this development. Perhaps Jalen Hurts, perhaps others. Craig, is this just another indicator of disarray and chaos in that locker room?
No, I think this is actually a competent move. No disrespect to Johnson, but he had 1 year at it. You're replacing last year's offensive coordinator, Steichen, who went obviously to Indianapolis to coach the Colts. Look, it fell apart, right? And part of the thing that fell apart was the development of Jalen Hurts. He regressed. We can all accept that this year after the great run to the Super Bowl the year before, and the offense just wasn't right. So there's always going to be hell to pay when you have Super Bowl aspirations. You come back a century with the same dudes, and you go backwards. And part of the backwards was the offense was never right this year. So how do you expect him to keep his job? Frank Reich's out there. A couple of the guys have been mentioned for the gig. I'm surprised Johnson wasn't fired, earlier in the year when things started going south. But if you could put that picture back up that you just showed, guys. Like, I would have fired him just for the first picture we showed there.
Broomstick with the boxing
Hitting
glove?
dudes with sticks. Like, what are we doing right there?
Well, we had a little bit of a football
thank
problem
God,
there, Craig.
there's a boxing glove on the stick. Well, that's less disrespectful, sure. Okay, look, I don't know a lot about Brian Johnson. I'm not going to claim I do. But I know what I saw on film every single week, and that was a dysfunctional offense.
Yeah, but
and someone's going to have to pay the piper for that.
And also, he didn't just fall apart. He wasn't able to recover. And that's the
But
biggest
beyond
problem.
that, we came in here, those two guys with the sign, every single week.
Yeah.
Like, we know what the problem for Philly was. They refused to commit to running the football behind a dominant offensive line. Every game they lost or didn't play well in, even if they won it, it was the same rhetoric and narrative. Why aren't we running the football? Why are we waiting? Why is Swift only getting 8 carries, over the course of 60 minutes? And at some point, when you have an embarrassing end to your season and you get blown out by Tampa Bay, an average team in the playoffs, you start looking for who's responsible.
But also go back to that first drive against Tampa when the first 2 runs, 9 yards, then it was 11 yards, then 11 out of those 12 plays were passes, right? And that's
Right.
the disconnect. The reason why Jalen Hurts is upset because now the new OC understands one thing. We're going to start running the ball. So they're going to take the ball out of his hand. So that's why he's
By the way,
frustrated.
Jalen Hurts didn't play well. And there's a big question in Philly right now. Did we pay him $200+ million prematurely? Now, I'll go. He got paid off a run to the Super Bowl.
Played well
in the
and,
Super Bowl.
and by the
Played
way,
well in the
and
Super
one of the
Bowl.
greatest
100
Super Bowl
times out of 100 you
performances
do
in a
that, yeah,
loss.
exactly.
And yes, it's now, Monday morning quarterbacking it. But the reality is that there's major question marks now about the future development of Jalen Hurts because he took a drastic step backwards. And when you do start breaking down the film, you see a lot of games where the offensive game plan was fine and was sound, and Jalen Hurts blew it up. So it'll be interesting how they go forward. And it'll also be interesting what they do with guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, guys who are going to want money, and how they kind of rebuild the confidence in a quarterback that had to have lost it a little bit.
Yeah, having 15 interceptions on the season.
And let's be honest. Like, it's great, isn't it? Like, the more dysfunction in Philadelphia is good for all of us. America hates the Eagles.
If you're the Eagles last offseason, you're like, we were this close to winning a Super Bowl. We got it next year. This offseason, you're like, maybe we'll be second in the division.
Yeah, like, dude, they went from the number 1 seed to the 5 seed, and got embarrassed by Tampa. And even though we give Baker Mayfield a lot of credit, that was a bottom 10 and bottom 10 offense and defense, and they made the Eagles look like they were minor leaguers. And they got to own that, because that doesn't taste good for an entire offseason.
Second down, we have some interesting coaching news.
Yes.
Bill Belichick has interviewed twice with the Falcons. Still not a deal done.
Crazy.
We assumed that, remember we said there was 27 teams that would rather have Bill Belichick than their current coach. However, there are some open spots. They're not being filled by Bill Belichick. He's not interviewing anywhere. Are you surprised about the lack of a market for Belichick's services?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as I'm thinking about it while you're talking, what surprises me even more than the lack of apparent market for Belichick. I mean, theoretically, Carolina could have called him and he could have said no, and we just don't know that. But we know that no one else has brought him in for an interview. Here's what, just play this out for a second if you follow the bouncy ball, if you don't mind. Why did you have to interview him a second time?
Thank you.
Like, he's, okay, he's Bill Belichick. We know who he is.
Will you stop it?
Hang on. So you go in there, he sits down for a couple hours, meets Arthur Blank, meets the executive team of the Atlanta Falcons. We know who the guy is. It's not like you're interviewing a 35-year-old unproven guy who's had some success in college or had a good run as a quarterback coach or something like that. You're talking about a 70-year-old guy with the second most wins in the history of the sport and the most Super Bowl titles by far of any coach that's ever done it. You're telling me that he had to come back for a second interview to tell you what?
Well, he just has to reiterate what he said, because if he talked like this, you wouldn't have understood everything the first time. So It's like, we got to get him back in here.
I saw that. I understand, like, the average person goes for an interview, and they're like, hey, you did a great job. Now you advance to talk to the executive that's in charge of your department, because he has to bless it. I get that. That's real terms, right? This is Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick walks in to the Falcons office. He's now the most accomplished coach to ever walk inside that office.
Probably wears 6 Super Bowl rings out of 7.
And you're telling me after one interview with him, you didn't hear enough? You got to bring him back to tell you more about what he's going to do? Like, and if I was Bill Belichick, I would have said respectfully, Mr. Blank, peace out. I ain't coming back for a second one.
Because you can't continue to rest on his laurels, Craig. At the end of the day, it's about personnel. Guys who you're going to bring in to make the culture within Atlanta better. At the end, understand it right now, you need a quarterback. And so since he's going to be a part of that process, what is his thought process?
I don't need to interview Bill Belichick twice, but I want to just role play here. I'll be Arthur Blank, and since you do impersonations, you be Bill Belichick. Okay. Bill, what would your plans be for the future of the Falcons organization that are going to warrant me giving you $20 million a year?
We just need to win.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I'm just going to have the guys do their job.
You know what? Can you come back again in a couple days?
That's why you come back. There you go. Exactly.
Like, that's so crazy to me that Bill Belichick didn't get the job after the first interview.
And he probably won't get the job.
Like, if I'm Bill, I would have been like, I'm not even getting on a plane to Atlanta. I'll Zoom call this interview because I'm Bill Belichick and you're not. This is crazy talk, no?
Yeah, he's not getting the job.
Hey, like, if I'm Bill Belichick, I go to that Zoom call with the crown on, too. And like Jacoby said, all my rings.
Yes.
And I think he's got, 9 of them, right?
He's got 8.
Between coordinator and a couple with the Giants. He's got 8 rings.
Yep.
How many fingers does he have?
I got 10.
Does he?
Hopefully.
So he needs 2 more then. He needs 2 more. In any event, we got to take a very quick break. Coming up, we got all your headlines. And apparently, I'm going to lay out the sports work. What the heck?
Wait, I wish you could read.
Good thing you're so good at talking.
Right now. Good thing you're so good at talking.
Jesus.
Craig lays out the sports world. That's a lousy promo. I'm just going to be me, and you're going to love it. Coming up right after this, more NFL.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Right now.
From there to a little segment we like to call Right Now. right now.
Right now.
Craig's going to be him, and you're going to love it right now.
Right now.
Finally got a bottom thing that makes sense to this show that I can support.
Oh,
Okay, you guys ready? Let's do it collectively. Right now. Brock Purdy is the third best quarterback in the entire NFL. Right now. Discuss amongst yourselves.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Nobody agrees.
What?
Yeah, I think it's only you,
What
Craig.
you say?
Right now, Brock Purdy is the third best quarterback behind Lamar Jackson and, of course, Patrick Mahomes. And I can make the argument he's second only to Patrick Mahomes.
I can make the argument he's the fourth of the four that are left.
I agree. Yeah.
There is no argument. He's the fourth of the four that are left.
Yeah.
I mean, Craig, you just gonna keep swinging for this one. Nobody agrees with you.
Okay, if we want to do it, you said he's not better than Patrick. You said he's not better than
You
Patrick.
would take Jared Goff over
Listen,
him?
can I speak?
Please, go
You
ahead.
said he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. He's not better than Lamar Jackson.
I can own that.
Jared Goff has taken the team to the Super Bowl. He's now taking another team, a franchise who hasn't been there since he wasn't even. I don't even know if he was born.
And he didn't need
To
lag.
an NFC Championship.
He didn't need one drive to win a game. He dominated the second half of the game against,
Has Brock Purdy done that?
You guys done?
Has Brock
Now,
Purdy done
I will give Jared Goff one advantage over my guy, Brock
no, it
Purdy.
is.
And that, of course, is Christian Harbaugh.
Yeah. It's a win.
Bang, right there. I mean, he wins that one.
That popped up pretty fast.
Yeah.
I know what I'm saying. Every time I ask for a graphic, every time I try to keep up a
graphics
B-roll,
slow, that was
it
like,
always
pow.
takes 10 seconds. But
Yeah.
Christian Harbaugh on deck,
It's like
ready to go.
He says the name and all.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Ready, everyone? Right now, Giannis is a pampered coach killer in the NBA. Jacoby, go ahead.
Man.
Listen, one could make an argument that they wouldn't have gotten rid of Coach Bud without Giannis approving it. One could make an argument that he was the one who stood at the table and fought for Adrian Griffin to get the job. One could also make the argument that they wouldn't have fired him if Giannis stood at the table and said keep him.
That's right.
So I don't know if Coach Killer, but he's dating around.
Right now, pampered coach killer. Because you're right. There's no way they fire Griffin without Giannis blessing
Exactly.
it. That's
And there's
just the way
no way,
it goes.
because they were actually going to hire Nick Nurse, and Giannis said, no, we got to get this guy.
Yeah.
3 months later,
You might want to have hired Nick Nurse. He's a pretty good coach. Okay, ready? Right now, people are trying to find new ways to criticize Brock Purdy. Greg Jennings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right now.
no, we're still using the old ways.
No, yeah. I'm with Jacoby.
Question on that.
Yes, sir.
If Brock Purdy and the Niners get to the Super Bowl and lose to Lamar Jackson, will you show a greater appreciation for Brock Purdy, or will you come in on that Monday because you are working that day with us and say, well, you got to win it? What were you saying that
Well, we've said he has to win it. But look, he's a good quarterback.
should get a tattoo.
Let me just say that. He's a good quarterback right now.
Right now.
Right now.
If he loses in the Super Bowl, he will be a good quarterback.
The question is, if he doesn't beat Detroit, what happens to you, Craig?
I'm fine. I'll be good.
Like, how do you respond after this whole
He
tirade?
said, I know he does. He goes, I've been on Detroit all year. I told y'all I was the only one to put him on top of the mountain after weekend.
Craig,
We know this
you
works.
walk a belly up
Come
like
on.
that, but there should be some penalty.
No.
Something should happen.
No, he's been celebrating Detroit all year.
Have
It's
you guys
fact.
been reading my notes upstairs? Detroit can't beat San Francisco. You guys all know that. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a rout. San Fran scores 50, and I think that Brock Purdy throws for more than 400 yards and 5 tutties in that game. But obviously, they're still going to play the game. All right, right now, there is no doubt. The one thing we do agree on that the Ravens and the Niners are the two best teams of the 4 teams that are left. Right now,
100%.
Can we all get along on that one?
Question.
Yeah, not even a doubt. You talk about the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Bottom line, this is a legacy, Lamar. You got to win this game. This is the game people will remember for the rest of their career.
I'll tell you one better than that. If you want to play it out to 2 weeks from this Sunday, if it is San Fran against Baltimore, and we all know that San Fran got embarrassed by the Ravens when they played about a month ago now, and you talk about pressure, if you're the 2-time MVP going up against the guy that you guys have found holes in his game left and right, I tell you what, you better beat him.
Yeah.
Because I'm peacocking my ass off on Monday if San Francisco beats Baltimore, and I can't wait to hear the apologies that are going to come my direction and Brock's direction if Brock Purdy, the good quarterback, beats the second best quarterback in football. But we'll see how it plays itself out, won't
Let's
we?
see how it looks like against Detroit.
The
Right?
next 2 weeks are going to be great. Can't wait.
First half of football
All right.
stunk.
Right now, we got word from South Florida. Tyreek Hill just got somebody pregnant.
Jesus Christ!
Oh, congratulations to Tyreek and the health
Nice
team.
job on that.
Congratulations.
He's really trying to pass Nick Cannon, isn't
Oh,
he?
man.
Yeah, that's his goal.
Good
There
for
was a
Tyreek.
report out of the Sun Sentinel that he and his wife had filed for divorce just 3 weeks or so after they got married, and he came out yesterday and said, don't believe the nonsense in the Sentinel. We are not divorced. I'm very, very happy and in love, and we are still married.
for
But
him.
nobody
good for
believes
him.
him. All right, one more for you here. Right now, there are 23 million chickens trying to figure out how to hide their wings.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming.
The first next one.
It's coming.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
coming.
It's like they're out there like, I'm wingless. Don't kill me.
Right.
I'm-
It's over. What is this?
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
That's the way it is.
This is
It's a fact.
the Super Bowl's a holiday.
Yeah,
we
that's
eat
right.
wings on the Super
But
Bowl.
like if I was a chicken, I'd pretend. I'd sit there like, I can't go anywhere. I have no wings.
They don't fly. You know that, right?
No, but they have little spurts.
They do, yeah, they do.
They have little spurts of
Yeah,
flight.
yeah.
But like,
There's
the
so
chickens
many
get
things that I want to call you right now.
I'm just saying, they pretend you're a chicken for a second. Like, they're coming to get you. 50 million your wings get eaten during the Super Bowl. If I'm the wingless chicken in the back, they're like, leave that one alone. He
Greg,
doesn't have any
No.
wings.
Greg, the people at home don't know this is you're a proprietor of a chicken family.
I own
You-
chickens,
You've
yeah.
got chickens.
Yeah.
How do you're going to go wingless for the Super Bowl?
I'm just going to eat other chicken's wings. Yeah, I'm not going to eat my own.
What do you look like if you're wingless chicken?
Yeah, this is my wingless chicken. Yeah, like, I can't fly. I've got no wings.
Is that your- is
And then
that-
I'd be like this. I'd be like, hey, Billy, let's hide our wings together. What? You don't think the chickens talk about this stuff?
No.
They
They
do.
know what's going on. It's
Even
almost
the-
February.
Listen, even a chicken with no wings, I'm still eating his ass.
I'd be the chicken hiding behind the Willie chicken, like, take the big one. Take the big one. Look, he's got wings. Oh, look at that. Bingo wings. Look at that.
There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. And that is what we call
My belly's up.
right now. Coming up, more on Patrick Mahomes, more on Lamar Jackson. And who do you have more faith in, Goff or Purdy?
Jesus.
Seems like we've had that discussion for a couple hours already today, but
Interesting question.
why not? You just tuned in. It's next on FS1.
Good morning! Thank you for tuning in to the Carton Show. We have your early morning headlines to get your day started. We start with the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. The two best teams in the AFC, the two best quarterbacks in the AFC going head-to-head. But everyone's going to be talking about the quarterbacks. My question for you is this, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Which quarterback has the better weapons around them offensively between the Ravens and the Chiefs? Have a look.
I mean, I still think it's the Baltimore Ravens, and I think for those of you that haven't watched a lot of Ravens football, they're not all household names the way Travis Kelce is. And obviously, we've seen so many games the Chiefs have played over the last couple of years because they're always on national TV. They're always in the championship game that we feel like we know them a little bit better. But when you start matching it up, running back depth, Baltimore's got it. Tight end depth, Baltimore's got it. And let's not sleep on the fact that Mark Andrews probably comes back in this game and likely has been a great substitute for him since he went down earlier, with the injury. And I just think when you go man for man, while Kansas City is special and they've got Mahomes, which is the difference maker, I just think that Baltimore's better across the board at everything they do. And the reason they're not favored by 5 or 6 is the Mahomes factor. Because Patrick Mahomes, outside of Joe Burrow, doesn't lose AFC championship games. Lamar Jackson's never been to an AFC championship game prior to this Sunday. So I think you have some historical pressure that's leading people to look at a game a certain way. When I look at it, take everything else out of it. Take history out of it for a moment. When I just look at these two teams and you watch every game they've played this whole season and how they come into the playoffs, Baltimore's just a better football team. Doesn't mean they're going to win, obviously, but they're better across the board. They've got a top 5 defense. Yeah. They've got a top 5 offense. They've got the league's MVP. They've got the best rushing attack in the entire sport this year, which, again, he ran for 800 yards, so he's a big part of that. But, again, when I watched, now I will go historically, when I watched what Kansas City didn't do well against Buffalo on the road last week, it was for the majority of the game to the last couple drives, they could not stop the run. And a lot of those runs were Josh Allen. Well, Lamar Jackson's better at it than Josh Allen is, and as a team, they run the ball better than the Bills do, all due respect to James Cook. So if I'm Baltimore, I just found their Achilles heel. I'm going to attack them at what they're bad at, and then I'm going to come over the top with one of the best quarterbacks in football. I don't know how Kansas City stops that.
Yeah, and Baltimore takes care of the football. I go back to that when you talk about the Chiefs and Buffalo game when they went for the fake punt and they actually get the stop. Then they hand the ball to Nicole Hartman and you have a damn fumble.
Right.
Like that whole situation is still scratching my head. But overall, I'm with you, Craig. I think on top of what Baltimore does best, man, they don't panic. We talked about it. They stick to the script. They're going to run the ball. They're going to let Lamar get rid of the football. But overall, defensively, man, I think that's where the X factor is. Defensively as a whole, they just have a better complete defense, and they match up. From the secondary to the linebackers to that defensive four, they just get after it. Metabikwe and Calvin Noy and all those guys, they're able to get home with those guys, and they're going to be able to get after Patrick Mahomes.
And, Greg, I'll bring up this part. Patrick McQueen put the league on notice about a month ago.
He did.
When we were talking about kind of the gimmicky offenses, not Kansas City's. When we were talking about, the Miami offense and the gimmicky stuff that people were looking at with all the different motions and all like the crazy stuff. And he just put it out there and said, look, we don't care who you are.
Yeah.
We don't care how you play. We don't care what your gimmick is. We're playing old school AFC North football, and we're going to punch you in the mouth. And not every team can handle that.
Yeah, with the way this offense played in that second half, and particularly Lamar Jackson, with those weapons you're talking about, I'm not sure that they just have outright the better weapons, but what we can say and what we do know that the tape shows us is that their weapons this year have been more consistent for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And we've never seen him have this luxury of weapons. Aguilar and him dropping back in the quick game and him being able to be decisive because of the weapons that he has across the board when he drops back, and let alone his offensive line, which you alluded to, that gives him time to make these decisions that he's been able to make. And then you turn around and hand the ball off to your defense and say, hey, we just scored. Go stop them from scoring. They've been the best in the National Football League at complementing.
And look, even though we give Kansas City the credit they deserve, for going to Buffalo and winning that game, 27-24. But when you look at what they are all year, it's not a high output offense from a scoring standpoint. They're not a good red zone offense, again, from a scoring standpoint throughout the year. And they have not played a team anywhere close to as complete a team as the Baltimore Ravens are. So if I don't discount what they did last week because I saw it, and it was Kansas City. They looked like the old Kansas City in the first 5 drives where they scored points on all 5 of their first drives of the game. Buffalo couldn't stop them. But the Baltimore Ravens are not the Buffalo Bills on defense. They're not missing 6 starters on defense. And I think Kansas City is going to realize very quickly we're not playing the Miami Dolphins, all banged up in 20 below with 40-mile-per-hour winds. We're not playing the Bills, missing 6 starters on defense. We're playing the most complete team that when games mattered at the end of the regular season didn't just beat everybody, dominated everybody.
Yeah, but there's something you mentioned earlier that I want to talk about. And that's the spread, because it was a -3 for the Bills, and the Ravens are a much better team than the Bills on both sides of the ball. And this just shows me just how dumb the public is. They must be betting on the Chiefs because they're betting on the Chiefs uniform. They're betting on what the Chiefs have done
they're betting
in
on
previous
15.
years.
Is what
They're
they're
betting on 15 because the fact that the NFC Championship is -7, this one is -3.5. It doesn't make sense.
But you
Well,
can't.
part of it is what you just said. It's pedigree. You're talking about a team that's been to 6 consecutive
you can trust
AFC
that.
championship games, so you've got a body of work, and you know how they perform. Only Joe Burrow's beaten them in AFC championship games, and those games were very close. So you can at least predict they're not going to embarrass themselves. Their game plan's going to be sound, and that dude's going to make plays that most quarterbacks can't make because they're unscripted, and it's instinct, athletic ability, and experience. But to go back to your point, the spread's a little fugazi because Baltimore is better.
Yes.
And not by a little bit, in my opinion,
I think
by a lot of it.
Yeah. But also on top of that, I think it's 2 sides to this, right? You talk about the Chiefs going into Buffalo. One thing that Patrick Mahomes told his team, can we accept the challenge? Because a lot of people thought Buffalo was going to get them. But it was this team feeling like they were the underdog going into that game that kind of spurred their passion and fight to go out there and put on a show. But overall, when you talk about Lamar going into this game, man, like this is more an indictment of Lamar's legacy more than anything, because this was a guy, when he got drafted, they didn't think he could win a big one. They didn't think they could win with his skill set, his attitude, and what he brought to the table. He has to be the better quarterback, and I'm convinced that he will be, solely because of what he did against the Texans. They blitzed the hell out of him, and he responded time after time.
Yeah.
And he backed it up with his playmaking ability with his legs.
I also think that the time to beat Baltimore was last week. And I'm not knocking Houston. They had a great run and just ran into a buzzsaw in that second half. But when you don't play real football for 20 days, when you sit out for 3 weeks, I don't care how hard your practices are, it ain't the same as Sunday. You guys know that better than anyone. And to me, that's the shot you had to beat Baltimore at home. I think Kansas City had them last week. I think it's a toss-up. I think Kansas City, now that Baltimore's back and they're in their regular routines and regular rhythm, and let's be honest, they dominated Houston on both sides of the ball over the last 30 minutes of that game. So they are coming in rhythm, at home, crazy fans. You know, weather's weather. It's not going to have an impact on the game, obviously. And they're just a better team.
I want to say that quickly. I know there was a lot of talk about Bills Mafia and how crazy they are. They have no idea what these Raven fans look like. I played in Baltimore this time of year.
Yeah.
It is hostile. It is rude. This is the type of game you don't bring your kids to.
Got it.
I'm being dead honest. Like, this is an adult-only game. If you don't want your kids to hear cussing and all that vulgarity, don't bring them to this game because it's about crab cakes.
Let me ask you guys a question about that. Is there any impact at all on Kansas City or Mahomes because you have 80,000 people that are acting like that?
80,000 people who believe in Lamar Jackson, who believe in that he can run for mayor and they're going to vote for him. So they're going to be extremely passionate. That place is going to be fiery. It's going to be loud. And it's going to be hell for Patrick Mahomes and that team.
Yeah, you want home field advantage, but if you're the team that's on the road and you have to go into a hostile environment, you don't care.
Right.
You feel like you've earned the right to be there, and we feel like we're the better team. What I will say about this matchup is it's interesting because the Baltimore Ravens have been the best team all season. And it's because they have been able to play their style and their brand of football. They dictated the terms with everyone of which they've played. However, when a guy like Patrick Mahomes, with the resume that he has, that has gotten this team to this point, that uh-oh factor becomes real. And it starts to change not only the way sometimes players approach the game, but coaches call the game.
Sure.
And that's why if I'm the Baltimore Ravens, you have to remain who you've been all season long. Don't change because we might be worried that Patrick Mahomes is going to score every time he gets the ball or he might score on our defense. It might happen, but you have to stick to the script of who you are and stay on brand to who you are.
Well, I think one of the good things about that, you're talking about a veteran head coach. You're talking about an older offensive coordinator, albeit his success came in college, and Todd Monken. I don't think the moment's too big for those guys. So I think that's a benefit to them. You know, if you're talking about a newbie coach who'd never been here before and never had been in the big spotlight before of a championship game, you might, kind of out-coach yourself, outthink yourself game plan-wise. But I think, look, we're the best team in football. We're going to be us. They got to match us. We don't have to match them. Now, obviously for Kansas City, best case scenario is what they did against Buffalo and come out and score points early. Because if you get down 10-0, 14-0, 14-3, and you let that Ravens defense kind of pin their ears back and go get them, they're going to go get them.
But you said something earlier. The window for Lamar Jackson is probably the tightest it's ever been because you got to understand Aaron Rodgers is going to come back healthier. Josh Allen's going to be
and the AFC's,
and the AFC North is tougher. So if there's a window to go get it, he has to get it right now.
This will be the best opportunity he ever has to win a Super Bowl. You're at home. Like you said, the AFC, it's a gauntlet. I would much rather be an NFC quarterback 100%. Than an AFC quarterback. Like you said, Burrow comes back. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets. Whatever other moves happen, this offseason, he will never have as good an opportunity to win. Because remember, if they beat Kansas City, they've already blown out San Francisco. Makes it harder to beat them a second time, to be fair. And Detroit's not in their league.
This is Super Bowl or disappointment for the Ravens.
100%.
I honestly feel like it's Super Bowl or disappointment. Even in the Super Bowl, you lose. This isn't, hey, next time we'll get them. This is Super Bowl or disappointment for the Ravens, which adds a little bit of pressure. Let's talk about that NFC Championship game really quickly. Obviously, it is Brock Purdy and the Niners against Jared Goff and the Lions. We've discussed this quarterback matchup a lot, but here's the question we haven't asked yet is which quarterback has more pressure on them?
More pressure. Look, if you're at home and you're the 1 seed, the pressure's on your shoulders. I, however, am not one of these guys that buys into the narrative of, Detroit's got nothing to lose. House money. I hate that because they have a trip to the Super Bowl to lose, and there's no guarantee they ever get back to the NFC Championship game. They haven't been to one in 40 years. Right, so to me, pressure for sure is always going to be on the team that's favored, the team that's at home, the team that had the better regular season, all the accolades and all that. But at the end of the day, You can't say Detroit comes in loosey-goosey with no pressure at all. This might be their only chance for the next 100 years to go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would agree. I would lean to say it is Purdy because he is playing at home, and the expectations are this team is the better of the two teams that are playing in this matchup. However, I'm not going to give Jared Goff a pass because there's pressure on him. When he plays well, this team, they thrive. But when he doesn't, and he throws the ball to the opponent, this team starts to falter, and we know what they look like defensively. They will give up points, but offensively, they cannot be the Jared Goff in the latter end of the season a little bit where he started fumbling the ball and just generating turnovers where their defense was put in compromising situations. So there's pressure on both of these.
And I'll do you one better. Obviously, it's a quarterback league, so we talk about the quarterback matchups, rightfully so. Jared Goff got discarded because he couldn't win a Super Bowl. And they went out and got a guy that could. So there's a lot riding on his ability to prove to the world, I am the guy, I'm him. I can take a team again to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. But I'm telling you, the stat that does speak volumes is the fact that the Detroit Lions, for all the greatness, for all the Campbell stuff, they have given up 300-plus yards passing in 5 consecutive games. And when you have an offense that can throw the football and rack up yards like that, with Ayuk and Debo if he plays, and Kittle and Jennings and on and on and on, I am concerned if I'm Detroit that defense is going to get shredded by the passing attack of San Francisco because they've done it to better teams, and the pass defense stinks in Detroit right now.
Yeah, two things. I think, one, for Jared Goff, the pressure is, I think, mostly on him because, once again, he is also playing at home. He's from North Cal. Right, so he's playing where he grew up at, where he played high school ball at. So everybody in attendance is going to be here. That's not going for the Niners, going to be cheering for him. But for the defensive side, they're stout against the run, but horrible against the pass. What do the Niners do really well? They pass the ball, they're efficient, and they have the weapons. So if you're the Detroit Lions, you have to understand one thing. You have to dominate the time of possession, keep the ball on the ground, and keep Brock Purdy and this offense off the field.
Look, that says exactly what you're talking about. Against the run, they're money good. One of the best defenses against the run. That's all regular season numbers. And against the pass, frankly, they embarrass themselves. And you're going up against a passing offense with Brock Purdy and obviously all the talent there. Here's what's crazy about this, though. In the Baltimore-Kansas City game, you can make the argument that the country split. There's a lot of front-running Mahomes fans, obviously. You're the most popular guy in the league, et cetera, et cetera. You have the Swift factor. Hate to bring it up. But all the Swifties are out there.
I hate that that's a factor.
I know, but it is a factor. I tell you, every Super Bowl party in America, there's going to be people at home rooting for Kansas City solely because, Taylor Swift is a fan, right? And then on the NFC side, it's 99-1. Outside of San Francisco, America wants to see Detroit win that game because they're representative of the American fight, of the blue-collar passion, the work ethic, and all the stuff that comes along with that. So it's interesting where I think the other game is 50-50, right? A lot of Lamar Jackson fans. Baltimore has that same kind of street cred type thing. Kansas City, it's kind of like, the Golden State Warriors. All of a sudden, everyone's a Chiefs fan because they win a lot. But in the other game, it's all about Detroit. And I'm sorry to say, America's going to be let down again.
Another real reality is you feel like the San Francisco 49ers, they have a margin of error, where the Detroit Lions, they truly don't. Like the Green Bay Packers showed you in that game that they played last week against the 49ers, they missed opportunities that were pretty much
3 or 4 interception opportunities.
They missed those opportunities. And the 49ers capitalized on when they had the final drive and all the things. If you're the Detroit Lions and you look at that tape and you see opportunities out there, and then you get into this game and you have those various opportunities, you got to capitalize on them, because I don't think anyone at this desk or anyone around the country believes, although they might be rooting for the Lions, that the Lions can just outright just go blow out the 49ers.
They can't. If there's a blowout, it's San Francisco blowing them out. But you could see a close game still on the table. I'm waiting to hear Gardner Johnson come out and talk like he talked about Baker Mayfield.
No, you don't do that this week.
You ain't going to hear it. You ain't going to hear it.
There's something about this matchup that people aren't discussing, which I think will be very important for this game. And when you watch the Packers game, there's something quiet that happened that no one's talked about.
Okay.
The 49ers, they're great front four. Didn't create any pressure.
No.
Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Hargrave, those big names they had, they did not create any pressure in that game. And the Lions was a bit of the opposite. And I think that if there's any roadmap for the Lions to win, it's that trend continues. Because when you talk about that bad passing defense, we always blame the secondary.
Yep.
That's not just on the secondary. It's on the linebackers and it's on the front four getting home. And I think it's very important for the Lions to create pressure and for the Lions offensive line to keep those big names at bay like Packers did.
Really quick, I'll add to that. One thing I will say about this defensive line that they're excited about is Jordan Love could move. Jared Goff is going to sit in that pocket. And so they're like, we like that type of quarterback.
We know where we're going.
We run to a spot and go get it.
And their best offensive lineman, their starting center, is all banged up.
Yeah.
Playing though.
You talk about manning up
right now
and getting through a game. That dude's got a bad knee, a bad ankle, and he was dragging that hoof home.
He looks at plays like someone named Ragnar.
He had one of the key blocks on the goal line.
Yeah,
he was on one knee and blocked via the van.
Yeah.
That's what you call it. That's how you get a stick on your helmet.
Yes, that's college. But I'm with you. I know. It's like participation trophy stuff, kid.
Yep.
Look, it's exciting. It's the championship games. Yeah. We had some spirited conversations today. I will leave you with this. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And the crown right now is being worn by Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. Can Patrick Mahomes go into Baltimore and get the job done? Can Jared Goff do the unthinkable? He's already done it once by landing Christian Harper. Can he do it again?